This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to a heading into the weekend edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Absolutely packed show today. Lots to get to after last night's shocking loss by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in overtime to the Montreal Alouettes. First and foremost, shout out to everyone that was there. An amazing crowd, an amazing atmosphere. Although, as we will get to, depending on who you talk to, the crowd may have played a role in the demise of the Bombers in such a bizarre fashion last night. We're going to be talking about the game with Dustin Nielson, my pal from the Lock Shop, who, of course, called the game last night on TSN. And because of the focus on the kicking game, who better to jump on than our guy Troy Westwood. Westy will be on the program in about 20 minutes as well to get his take on, what the misses at such a crucial time mean for Mark Leggio going forward, how you get past this, and, obviously what the effect on the rest of the team is when you have a failure like that in such spectacular fashion at such a crucial time. So Nielson and Westwood on the game last night. We'll also discuss the latest in the NHL offseason with the Winnipeg Jets and more with our guy Brandon Rewucki. Andrew Collier from the Winnipeg Goldeyes is going to stop off. Huge weekend coming up for the Fish and a lot of great things happening at the ballpark. So we'll fill you in on that for the weekend. We'll also take a quick trip around NFL training camps with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. And, of course, finish it off with another marble race here on WST. So before we get into everything that we have to discuss today, let's get Remis in here to start things off. Remo, I still can't believe they lost last night. What's going on? How are you?
People are saying I jinxed them. I'm saying you're saying the Wave jinxed it. I said it's you, Huss. You told Coolbet, put in a prop. Will the Bombers go undefeated?
Okay, that's fake news. That's fake news.
You went to Coolbet. You said, I want this prop
fake
in.
News.
Didn't even last a week on the board. It didn't even last.
How about do not fake news, everyone? You always get mad at people when they put fake news in the chat. You are now doing this exact same thing. That prop that was put out was a request from a listener.
Yeah, but you should have told him. Hey? You should have told him. No, but I guess we got to get that. Got to get that betting money. You got to get Coolbet's. Got to take their rake or whatever you call it, their handle.
Hey, well, I would have been more than happy to cash the ticket if the Bombers went through. And let's face it, we should be talking about a team that's 10-0 right now. I tweeted this out last night, and we'll get to the video of the incident as it happened. But I fully blame the Wave. People, if you were one of the folks that got at me for my Wave takes on there's a time and place for everything, and way before the end of a game in a game that is not by any stretch of the imagination taken care of, I'm sure you're with me now. Because, and again, this may sound ridiculous to many of you, but karma is a real thing. And doing a touchdown dance before you get in the end zone is a cardinal sin. And doing the Wave in a one-score game with 11 minutes left, even if you've won 2 straight championships, and even if you're 9-0, can come back to haunt you. And I am fully convinced, Michael Remis, that the premature Wave last night at the stadium, amongst so many people who are having such a great time, I sort of get why it happened. I believe that it cursed Mark Leggio, and that is why the kick to win the game, not being at least a single, is still something I'm not sure I'll ever understand. And then to obviously hit the upright on the one that they needed to continue the game in overtime was just a little more salt in the wounds, or it was an exclamation point on the take that we Bomber fans cursed the team with the Wave last night.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be here and be like, yeah, what happens in the stands affects the field of play. I think there were a number of factors that led to it. I think the bottom line here is, if you have a 24-yard field goal for a chance to win with time remaining as a kicker, that is your job to make the kick. And when I saw that he missed it, I was like, oh no. I was like, well, maybe he gets a single here. And you're like, oh God, he's carrying it out. And that is why I love the drama of carrying the ball out for trying to prevent the single, and couldn't do it. In overtime, you're like, okay. I'm not gonna blame the Wave, us, although we can agree it's a celebratory function. But I will say it speaks to how great of a crowd there was yesterday at the stadium. It was packed crowd. What was it? Over 31,000. Incredible to see that much support. It's just disappointing we couldn't finish it off with a win.
Let me say one thing about the crowd. And I say this as someone that has been going to these games my entire life, whether it's the Bomber games, the Jet games, Moose games, Goldeye games. Couple of observations last night. Crowd was incredible. I've never seen more. There was a couple points where I was outside at halftime and talking to some folks and looking around the crowd. I have never seen a time where more people not only are at the game, but are rocking blue and gold Bomber gear. I think the percentage of fans wearing Bomber gear was higher last night than any game that I'd ever been before. And the other thing, and I will say this the last 2 years have been really tough. And, I've got some friends and know some people that, have kids that have just come out of high school, or maybe have started the first couple years in university, have never been to a live class, never been to a party on campus. And nothing like that. They've essentially been at home doing classes online and probably connecting with people online. If you're 19 years old, you're 20 years old, you're 21 years old, you're a single person that maybe hasn't been out very much, get season tickets in the North End Zone and get out there, because from a social aspect for young people, that was the place to be in the city last night. And I know the game ended a way that people didn't want to it, but the way that they have created a culture and an atmosphere of fun and great times and meeting people, and it was really, really awesome to see. And listen, it would be great to be talking about a 10-0 team right now. The Bombers will be fine. But the health of the franchise, the fan base, and the action going on in the field right now, honestly, is at a high that I don't think I can ever remember before.
I agree with you. You go out and see a lot of Bomber gear everywhere. The crowd, people are fired up and giving this previously undefeated team to start the season, major props, and they're getting behind them. And look, they were in position to win yesterday. It didn't happen. I see comments from people saying, maybe it's a good thing. Now we don't have to spend all this time talking about an undefeated season. You don't have all this pressure. I don't think it changes what we think of the Bombers. However, I do look back at some of their wins, and I'm like, well, maybe the Bombers kind of squeaked by on other teams' mistakes. You remember the win in Toronto where they missed the field goal at the end of the game, or the extra point. And now the Bombers make a mistake and they lost. So they are mortal. They are human. The game was there for the taking, but they just didn't grab. There were a couple plays. You want to talk about? I don't know how we're going here, but the fumble at the end by Collier, the drive by Trevor Harris, and then the offside, very, very key.
Speaking of the atmosphere in the stadium, that might have been the most widely participated in "Ref You Suck" chant I can ever remember. There's been some loud ones at the rink downtown at Jet games before, but people were hot after that. And to be honest, that I still can't believe that was called the way it was. Is that the reason they lost? No. But if they got the call right, and I guess even when you look back, I mean, he may have been offside by a millimeter, I guess. I was stunned, though, that they called that considering how close it was and such a massive and important play. If you're with us on YouTube right now, you can see the lineup of a hand, I don't know, maybe a centimeter over the line. Pretty surprising that they called that. And as Bombing says, yeah, the letter of the law is right. Doesn't always get called that way, but it certainly did last night. And that was a huge part of that turnaround and the inevitable comeback for the Alouettes.
I will say that I was looking for the Bombers defense to get some type of turnover, to make some type of play. You know, we saw it. I thought, this game was almost a carbon copy of last week's game.
Totally.
Dalton Schoen at halftime says to Sarah yesterday, we're not playing our best. We can play better than this. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he said the exact same thing at halftime last week. And then they came out in the fourth quarter and started pulling away. And it seemed like they were about to with that drive before
100-yard
Collier's
drive,
fumbled.
right, to start the fourth quarter. All right, fourth quarter, put them up. Let's go win the football game. And it certainly seemed like that way was exactly what was happening. And you mentioned, I mean, it was a fumble, uncharacteristic, turnover by the Bombers. And then what a legendary goal line stand. That's what was so disappointing about that play. I mean, to have that be called on a third down with the way the Bombers handled the line of scrimmage and prevented them from getting in would have been a very Bomber way of winning the football game. We've seen that a few times this year, but unfortunately it didn't go their way. And then it came down to Mark Leggio. And listen, we're going to get into it with Troy Westwood, but we'll hear from Leggio in just a second. I mean, just that was one of the worst kicks you will ever see. And, to have it happen in such a pressure-packed situation, unfortunately, for a guy that had been really good so far this season. I mean, he had that rough second half in BC in a game that they won. And other than that, it pretty much been perfect all season long. It only missed 2 field goals, I believe, in the entire year. But holy smokes. I mean, everything that had to conspire to not at least get a single point. I think there's a lot of retrospection. I know there's some people saying, they should have just punted. No one's ever going to punt that. I mean, the distance from a field goal and a punt isn't that different. But the bottom line is, and I'm sure Westy will say this, no matter what trajectory or line you're on, you better hammer that ball and just make sure that it's not possibly going to get returned out of the end zone. And for it to end up where it did and the Alouettes to come out was frankly a miracle result for them to go to overtime. And I think people were still stunned that the game wasn't over after that first kick.
I had someone text me after that this was like the most depressing loss that they had been at ever. Now, maybe that there's some recency bias there, but packed house. Like, you think your team's going to have this drive to take the win after that failed goal line stand? And to have a field goal miss that poorly, pretty disappointing. I think there were a number of areas where they could have been better, but you had the game on the foot, ready to be won. Should be a routine kick, and it wasn't made. And you go to overtime. You still have a chance in overtime, and again, off the upright. So real disappointing finish. Game was well played. You thought the Bombers are going to pull away. I thought they could have used a stop from the defense. They needed to force a turnover or something. Bombers defense didn't do that. Well, they did, but it was offside. And it was the Alouettes defense which forced the Bombers to, which forced the fumble and then the field goal in overtime.
I thought the Montreal D line was solid all game.
Yep.
I mean, Zach Colleros, the best plays, including that brilliant touchdown to Dalton Schoen. I mean, those plays were when Zach Colleros was under a significant amount of pressure. I mean, he was sacked, he was hit, he was hurried at times. And he showed the mobility and the moxie that he has when he gets outside of the pocket. And I know they sort of changed up some of the plays to get him out a little bit more. And it did have some success. But the Bomber offense would be the first ones to tell you that they have way more to give in the tank, and it wasn't a great start for the team overall. But I do think that the Montreal defense deserves a lot of credit, especially the guys up front going up against that Bomber offensive line.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The Bombers D-line putting pressure on Collier, as I said, forcing that fumble, getting multiple sacks. But I do want to point out that touchdown that Dalton showed.
Unreal.
Like Zach Collier, that was like Eli Manning in the Super Bowl against the Patriots in the with the helmet catch. I mean, guys all over him, grabbing him. Like, you think he's going to get sacked twice there, scrambles out and finds Dalton. And he's done that so many times this year, and Dalton's shown up there in the league leaders for touchdowns. I mean, what an incredible rookie season. He only had 2 catches yesterday, but 57 yards and a touchdown. Greg Ellingson, he returned, making some big catches, 3 catches for 54 yards. But, I mean, you held him to 17 points in regulation, and it should be enough to win, but it didn't break the right way. And again,
well, and the funny thing is, if that kick is made, which should happen more than 99% of the time, we're just sitting here talking about, look, the Bombers, fourth quarter again, 100-yard drive, no problem, get the ball back, charge down, first down, give yourself an automatic field goal to win, or at least single, and walk off at 10-0. They did all of that. And, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, at the end of the game, like it or not, it does come down to the kicker. And, Mark Leggio is going to have to sit on this one for the entire bye week after the disappointment. Now, Mike O'Shea, I'm certainly sure will have his back considering the way that he's played so far this year. I can tell you on the bus home from the game, there was a lot of people asking about Sergio Castillo. I'm not sure how fair that is, but listen, the team probably should be 10-0. They're 9-1 in the kicking game. Unfortunately, was the focus when people were leaving this field. Remo, let's get these Leggio clips coming up. He did man up and speak after the game last night to the assembled Winnipeg media. Here's a little bit of Bomber kicker Mark Leggio after the disappointment at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime.
The one before overtime, I just didn't give myself a chance, and just it didn't.
Can I hear that?
Coming off my foot, and then the one at the end there in overtime, I thought I hit it well, felt good off my foot, but obviously the outcome wasn't what I wanted it to be, and just move on. And like you said, you go 1 for 1, you wash it out of the way. I know we have a bye week, but just go back to training, working on things, and move on to the next game.
The one at the end of the fourth quarter, is it hard to totally get over that one heading into overtime? Is that still kind of lingering in your head at all, or?
I've watched it right away. I went to the next one, and obviously the ball flight looked a lot better than that one, and obviously, like I said, I thought I hit it well, but obviously the outcome wasn't what I wanted it to be, and just want to get the 3 points for the team, but unfortunately, we took a loss today, and those happen, and I'm just going to move on to the next game.
Yeah, a clanger off the bar, and that was it for the Blue Bombers and Mark Leggio. But, I mean, the one I think that, will be discussed and talked about for a long time and probably focused on amongst people that cover and cheer for this team was the kick at the end of regulation, which many people have correctly said, all you need is a single. Why don't you punt? Mike O'Shea said, you're never thinking about that for a second. But the one thing that you have to do is basically just hit that ball hard enough, which every professional kicker is capable of, that no matter what, even if your alignment isn't great, you're getting the single and you're walking away for the W. And as I said, we'll talk about that with Westy. But here's a little bit more of Leggio in his post-game comments after last night's first loss of the season.
You touched on it a little bit, but that one in the fourth quarter, just what happened exactly? Because it just came off your foot kind of a funny way. Just did you miss it kind of, or just what kind of happened exactly?
It just kind of looked like I felt like I hit it with all my foot. So I'm gonna watch the film, see what I could see if I mishit it, or there's a slight adjustment I need to make in like my plant foot or something like that. But it just felt like I got too much of the ball, and obviously it went to the left and low. But just take it to practice next week or to the bye week. I'll do my training and then take it to practice the week after and take it into the next game.
And also, you've been having a really solid season, so it's one game, but just what are kind of the emotions you're going through right now?
Obviously it doesn't feel the best, to not hit a game winner, but you just move on to the next one, and that's what pro football is. It comes with its ups and downs, and that's how like the pros, they go further. You wash it, move on to the next one. You can't let it sit with you, and then you just keep on getting better from here. It's a good learning point, and that's every kick is a learning thing for me, and I just take it to the next one, and what can I improve on for the week after.
All right, so there was Mark Leggio post-game last night, facing the music, being asked a number of times about the kick at the end of regulation and what happened. And I guess you can look at the tape. the job of the kicker is relatively simple. I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. I'll see what Westy has to say about that. I don't know how many times you'd have to watch that to know that that was just an unfortunately very, very poorly executed play at the most important time of the game. That being said, Reem, and I said this to some folks having one after the game last night, things could be worse. The team is still 9-1. This team is still in first place. They're getting a bye week. But it certainly won't change any of the questions around the kicking game that had been pretty much quieted by Legio's strong performance through the first 9 games of the season.
When I make my CFL power rankings, Huss, I'm still putting the Bombers at the top, 9-1. It doesn't really change what I think of them. However, I think if you had concerns about the kicking game leading into the season, and we did discuss that, it was over and over, and who's going to be the kicker? Are we going with Legio here? Maybe those questions about him in clutch situations, maybe the pressure ramps up, and if the Bombers do go and maybe they acquire Sergio Castillo from Edmonton and acquire him again at the deadline, I mean, Edmonton way out of it, 2-6, although I think that's like second place in the East. Just kidding. I think it would be third. But maybe we do have those questions as we get closer to the deadline. I do try to bring somebody in. Lewis Ward on Ottawa. I mean, the questions are going to happen now. We have, I mean, the worst thing.
Go get the Lucha Libre Castillo back. Get the poncho and get the Lucha Libre mask back to Winnipeg. Listen, I'm not saying they need to do that.
Yeah.
But the Elks are going to be done at the trade deadline. If the Bombers do want to go that way, I have a feeling they could probably call Edmonton and see whether something could happen. But that being said, I think it is unfair to talk about that honestly right now. I mean, obviously that's the reaction of everyone when a kick like last night is missed. But I think it is important to note that Legio has been real solid in a number of the games that the Bombers have won. Can't remember whether it was 18 of 19 or 18 of 20 or 19 of 21 coming in. But he'd been very, very solid and very consistent so far this season. So for his sake, I know the team won't quit on him right now. As long as he bounces back from this and is the kicker that we've seen in the other 9 games of the season, I think that he and the team should be fine. But you do wonder what the sort of emotional hangover from something like this is. And as I said, we'll talk about that with Troy, because I imagine that's probably the most difficult part of the job that is the kicker, is to move on over plays that have such an impact on the game. And if they, if it doesn't go your way, everyone's looking at you at the end. And I mean, that does have to be a lot to handle. But it certainly is part of the job, and what separates the guys that can be excellent and consistent at the pro level and guys that don't have a job.
Yeah, and they're going to be going into the bye weeks. You're going to have an extra week to stew on this loss. They did ask Mike O'Shea about what's going to happen with the bye week now. Does this change? You think this changes plans or what?
Do we have the clip?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Here's O'Shea. Well, he was asked, how he's going to handle this going forward. It was supposed to be a bye week for the Bombers, who have played 10 straight games without a bye.
And just last one for me. On that note, does this change anything about the bye week? How you guys approach that? Or
yeah, I've canceled all their plane tickets home, and everybody's going to be staying here grinding. No, shoot, there's nothing like that, right? You don't. Yeah, it's not punishment. We lost one game, right? What I need them to do is not punish themselves. I need them to move on very quickly and make sure that they have a bye week that they can relax and get refreshed, so they come back in a good frame of mind, ready to go.
All right, some good perspective from Coach O'Shea. I got a crack out of that when he said, "Yeah, plane tickets are canceled. It's all practice all week." That's a guy that has 2 Grey Cup rings as a head coach, knows his team very well. And like Lowry's right hand said, are we really in a meltdown over one loss here? Definitely not. I mean, the team is still the class of the league right now. They're still in first place. It was just, it was a shocking way that for the team to lose. And certainly you've got questions about the kicking game because of what happened at the most important point. But all in all, Reem, I think if you ask most Bomber fans, if you ask the guys in the room, if you ask Mike O'Shea with the little true serum in him, would you take 9-1 going into the bye? They certainly would have done it. And like many people said, honestly, getting one loss in the loss column, not the worst thing for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You know that they'll be back ready to go when they host the Calgary Stampeders 2 weeks from yesterday after their first week off to get a little R&R in this season.
I do wonder how much the fatigue had caught up with them. I mean, it was kind of, you had that game against Calgary where Zach Claris, I mean, he was on fire that game. Highest QB rating of the season. He had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. It seemed like the last 2 games against Montreal, the team looked a bit sluggish, and I think the bye week will definitely help them recover. And you have this schedule against a lot of East teams and multiple byes heading into the playoffs. So as long as they're good again going into the playoffs, I mean, it should be fine. But disappointing not to be undefeated. So talking about Ray Oliveira, shout out to him, 15 carries, 84 yards.
Oh, he had some big plays last night. I mean, it was too bad that, that so much of the focus is on the kicking game. But, hey, it is what it is. It's pro sports. That's the way it happens. I do have, this is a tease for you. Hang around till the end of the program. We've got marbles coming up, some more great guests. I do have a video. Credit to us for not talking about the Wave nonstop for the first 20 minutes. I do have a video, though, of my reaction while the Wave was going around with 10 minutes left in the game. We will play that later on. Westy's coming up right now. Andrew Collier as well. Tomorrow, Bark at the Park at the Goldeyes game. And our friends at Wallace & Wallace are fired up to be sponsoring Bark in the Park. If you and your furry friend are going to be at the game tomorrow, don't forget to drop by the Wallace & Wallace photo booth and get your portrait done. And while you're there, ask about their special offer. Bark in the Park ticket holders get $100 off a chain link dog run or fence. And if you're not in the market for a dog run or been too busy enjoying the summer to worry about replacing your fence, now's the time to visit them at wallacefences.com. You can use their online calculator to compare costs on wood, vinyl, ornamental, and chain link, or simply give them a call to talk to an expert, or visit them at their showroom for Wallace & Wallace over on Lawson Road. Great weekend for some barbecuing, folks. Why don't you pop by one of the local Vita Health Fresh markets to get your barbecue on? Lean bison steaks, chicken, burgers, dogs, and great options as well, including non-alcoholic drinks like Sober Carpenter beer and Clever mocktails. Great additions for your barbecue spread for all of your guests. Of course, Vita Health Fresh Market is stocked with Winnipeg's best selection of local, organic, and natural groceries, supplements, and beauty products, all at great prices. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and check them out online at myvita.ca. We've got one of the best dressed men around coming up, joining us in Westy. If you need to step up your game going into the fall, F Apparel's the place. Custom suits beginning at $400 and a great summer special. 3 shirts custom made to fit for you in all sorts of styles and sizes. 3 for $210. They've got all the other accessories you need. And hey, if you are in a wedding or planning one, talk to Andrew and the gang there about a 15% discount for suits for all the fellas that won't be one and done like so many of you that have unfortunately had to rent at times before. They are down at 190 Smith Street downtown and online at that's EPHapparel.com. And hey, once again, a big thanks to our friends at Aikens Lake for the amazing weekend we had last week. If you're thinking about an amazing fishing experience for a friends and family trip or a corporate outing, find out more online at aikenslake.com or hit our boy Pitt Terren up at Aikens Lake and get planning for next year. All right, Westy is about to join us on the program. No one better to talk about the kicking situation with the club than with the GOAT, Mr. 661, who joins us now on the program. Westy, what's up? Thanks so much for doing this. How are you, my friend?
Living the dream, boys. How you guys doing?
Well, same thing, although I was kind of hoping, I certainly was expecting at the end of the game, we'd be talking about a 10-0 team going into the bye. Westy, you have the unique perspective of doing that job for so long. What was your reaction to what happened at the end of regulation and then, of course, in overtime after the game winner was shanked the way it was?
Yeah, and I just got to say the way I feel, right? I mean, that's the way we did it when we were back in the old days on air. So that's the worst poorly contacted ball I've ever seen on a big kick. I don't understand. When you're there, when you're that close, and as a professional kicker, the repetition and everything, right? Striking the ball. And I'm not talking about hitting your target necessarily, but I'm talking about making contact with the ball. I do not understand, boys, how on a 32-yard field goal, you contact the ball so poorly that ball, I don't know what kind of rotation that was, and you missed that far away. And like on top of everything, how do you contact the ball when you are trying to crush it and it lands, I don't know, 5 yards deep into the end zone? I don't get that at all. I understand missing your target, man. Like, that's going to happen. But, you know, a 32-yarder, no wind of any sort of, for him to strike it low and hard like that, I don't understand that at all. So it was a horrible kick. And then, you know, dang well on the one in overtime that he's got, like, you're dealing with demons inside your head, negative thoughts, all that sort of stuff. And he just doesn't quite catch it the way it does. And now he's in a remarkable uphill battle for his career here with the Bombers going forward. But that first kick, boys, from 32 yards was the worst struck ball I've ever seen in high-level football in a big kick.
Westy, I mean, you've been in that situation so many times before. From that down and distance, with the clock being what it was, knowing that it was the final play of regulation, what is or what should be the thought process of a kicker going into that, knowing that this is the Canadian Football League and a single also wins the game?
Yeah, you got two main thoughts here, brother. The first one is vertical. Because I don't want that ball getting blocked. So I'm going straight up into the O zone with the ball, which is why it's so, you know, if you were kicking a 45-yarder and had a crosswind of 40 kilometers, I can understand where he actually contacted the ball, because you're trying to drive it into a place. But when you're that close and you can't have the ball blocked, so you're going completely vertical with the ball. That's the first thing, first and foremost. Second thing is, if I miss this sucker, if I don't go through the uprights, this ball is going to the back of the end zone. So I'm going to crush that sucker as hard as I can. I'm kicking it straight up in the air. And either way, we're winning this doggone game. If I make the kick, if somehow it does, and I think he's got enough leg for sure to go through the back of the end zone if you make decent contact with it, right? People think, well, that's a 55-yard field goal. No, that's the ball landing right at the line at 55 yards or whatever, and that's going to happen, man. So but the primary thought for me in that situation, you know, if I'm out there with Bobby, we're talking about it going on the field, that this can't get blocked. And that means I'm going straight up vertical into the O zone with the kick, which is why I don't understand whatsoever how he could have made such god-awful contact with it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, for it to be so short into the end zone and come out, I mean, the one thing I will say is the scenario, the way that it played out, I'm sure was the absolute last thing that anybody on the kick team would have thought of. I mean, part of me going through it afterwards on the way home from the game, they're almost lucky the way that happened that it didn't get returned back for a game-winning touchdown, because let's face it, they were thinking about blocking and getting that kicking up. Never in a million years, I think, did anyone think that they'd have to be making a tackle on that play.
That's a great point. And being that shallow, like you're mentioning there, Huss, you're talking about the possibility of getting around the corner that much quicker. That's a great point that you bring up. Wouldn't that have been something?
Let me ask you this about Legio. I mean, he's got the bye week, so maybe you can speak to what that bye week is going to be like and how he can come back. The thing about it is, we knew it was very sketchy last year. They went through a few kickers. They ended up getting a guy that not only did he get the job done, my opinion, probably should have been the MVP in the Grey Cup in Castillo. He left for more money. You knew what the situation was. Legio gets another chance. And the thing about it is, Westy, with the exception of the second half of the BC game this year, he's been basically perfect. But this, I mean, one kick in that job can change everything. Does this change much? How does he bounce back from this? And how crucial will be strong games in the next couple of games for him, despite the real strong first half of the season that he's already had?
It's a great question. And what kind of confuses me on that a little bit is just the extraordinary loyalty we've seen from Mike O'Shea in similar situations like this. So yeah, he's going to get the call the next game, right? And so this entire week here, until he plays again, Leggio's walking around with, he's wrestling, mental negative thoughts, things of that nature. When you're still young in your career, you don't have sort of
Ooh, did we lose Westy? We might have got into a little bit of a dead zone there, Reem.
Yeah, he dropped out.
That could be. Well, we'll see if we can get him back. I love and just get you back in here, Reem. We'll see if Westy can rejoin. That is to me, the challenge going forward. I mean, the team itself is going to be fine. But unfortunately for Legio, who has been great so far this season, this is the one fans will remember, and I'm not sure that's going to matter much inside the dressing room.
Publicly, all of his teammates are going to support him publicly. But in quiet conversations between a couple of the guys and or behind the closed door of Mike O'Shea's office, that there's a plan B here in place. And so Mark doesn't want to see anyone else come to challenge him in practice, but he's got to be strong in practice out of the gate. And ultimately what he's got to do is have a perfect or a near perfect game upcoming when he gets the next opportunity.
Westy, very simply, professional kicking in the Canadian Football League or the NFL for that matter. We know, there's so many guys with big legs. How much of the job is mental?
90 for sure. For sure, 90. Right? Because, even that's just the flat. It's very similar to golf in that sort of manner, fellas. And I think that's the best sort of analogy to use so that more people can understand what's at work here. If you are really struggling in your golf game, when you get up on the tee box, think about where your mind's at, all the negative thoughts that you have and that sort of thing, and pushing all of those aside to have a real nice solid swing and that sort of thing is challenging and difficult to do. Well, take that times it by 1,000 for the next time Mark is out there for a field goal. Right? Those are the kind of thoughts that he's going to be wrestling and dealing with. It is 90% for sure. It might be more than that, but it's a good solid 90% is mental.
I like the analogy to golf because, but unlike a golf round where you've got 72 or 80 shots, essentially imagine the entire round coming down to 2 putts or something like that. And that basically was the situation. Westy, just on the way out, all that being said, going into the bye week, this team's 9-1. This isn't a huge setback for them, is it? In some ways, it might be a little bit of a wake-up call, and I think could almost help them in the second half of the year. Certainly not dealing with a perfect season and everything that comes along with that.
Yeah, it's in no way a setback, right? Like how far out the number of lengths for a lead here that they've got in the backstretch or turning the corner sort of thing with their season. But I would say this, though, fellas. I don't think it would be hard to argue that this year's version of the team, even with their record, like they were not, they don't appear to be as strong as they have been the last couple of seasons in capturing the cup. Last year, when they were struggling with kicking, they were still winning their games, right? And boy, you can just kind of brush it off and push it aside when that position's struggling and you're still winning games. So, but now this year, like you just kind of wonder here down the second half of the season, if things don't get straightened out, and upcoming with the playoffs, I wonder how patient a guy like Coach O'Shea will be in this situation, if there's any further hiccups upcoming here from Mark going forward. But yeah, they still look spectacular. And it's just amazing. I was giggling the other day, fellas. I was talking to somebody, and there's going to be an entire generation, whether they win this year or not, probably, an entire generation of Bomber fans that are like, there was a drought? They're just going to know this dynastic enterprise and team that flourished under the Canadian Mafia, man. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, there was a drought. There's a whole generation. Oh, the drought? What drought? What are you talking about?
They don't understand. They don't understand what we all went through. And I'll tell you what, last night was a perfect example. There was tons of young people out there in big groups with friends having a great time. And man, if you were, 16 or 15 years old when all of this started, you're now 19, you're 20 years old. You're exactly right. All you know is winning. And that's what was so shocking for people leaving the building last night. Listen, Westy, thanks so much for doing this. Let's get out to a Valor game soon, my friend. I appreciate you joining me as always.
An absolute pleasure. And hey, big shout out to Wallace and Wallace, my friend. They came in, did a fantastic dog run for us. And a big part of it was being a part of your show and seeing the advertising, that sort of thing. So Awesome dog run from Wallace and Wallace.
Westy, you made my day. Listen, let's get out soon, man. Take care, and thanks so much for doing this. No one better to talk about the kicking game and the Big Blue than you. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Take care, boys.
Good stuff. The one and only Troy Westwood with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I almost said our old station, so used to talking to Westy in those forums. Anyways, great to have Troy on the program. All right, Rewucki's coming up a little later on. We're going to talk with Dustin Nielson, who called the game last night, get his take on it. Before we do that, big thanks to Culligan Water, the water experts in Winnipeg and Manitoba for over 65 years, family owned. They've got it all: water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, drinking water systems, citywide water delivery services, as well as commercial and industrial water products and solutions. They're at 694-5180. Visit them at 1200 Sargent Avenue or online at drinkculligan.com. Whew, those jerseys look great last night. I will say that. Don't blame the kits. And man, lots of fans were there. But as Greg mentioned, right now, if you do want to get one of those new Bomber jerseys, they got Willie Jefferson, Adam Bighill, Zach Caleros named a numbered Royal, or the blanks like I was wearing yesterday on the show. And the bottom line is, when you're thinking your favorite team and any cool merchandise, Royal Sports is the place. Nowhere has a bigger selection. And whether it's Bombers, Jets, NHL, NFL, NBA, might even have a little rider gear for your demented friends from Saskatchewan. I kid, of course. It's all there at Royal, not to mention massive hockey section, soccer, baseball, bikes, fitness, disc golf, tennis, and more. 750 Pembina Highway. And follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Hey, the weekend is here. The weekend always goes a bit better with some Little Brown Jug. We're going to talk to actually Andrew Collier from the Goldeyes a little later on, setting up a big weekend at the ballpark. And Little Brown Jug, Hefeweizen, and the Black Lager on tap this week and this homestand at Craft Beer Corner. And of course, if you want to pick up the great taste of Little Brown Jug, pop by the brewery and tap room on William Avenue, or check them online at littlebrownjug.ca and save the date. We'll have ticket information next week for you. But I'll be hosting the first ever sports trivia night with Winnipeg Sports Talk and Little Brown Jug Thursday, September 1st. Looking forward to seeing many of you out there. Should be a great, great night. Hopefully we'll hook up some great prizes, but a few pints of fun sports trivia and getting the WST crew together. Sign me up for it September 1st. Make a note. Hope to see you there. And a big thanks to our friends at Not Auto Corp. Saw Trev and the gang last night all dolled up supporting the Bombers. Of course, great supporters of Winnipeg Sports, Winnipeg Sports Talk, and the place to go before you start your search on a new vehicle. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? They are at Waverly and McGillivray, or check out more online on everything they've got in the lot, the new Winnipeg Car Lab, and more online at not.ca. All right, had a high-level lock shop meeting this morning with my pal Dustin Nielson, who, of course, was in town to call the game last night. He'll be heading out this afternoon to call tomorrow's game between BC and Calgary. But let's bring in the big guy right now to get his thoughts on the wild one last night at IG Field, the Bombers' first loss of the season. What's going on? What a crazy game last night.
That was an insane night. The Canadian Football League just delivers. It's as simple as that. Like the drama last night. Ed, I know you said there's more to talk about than the Wave, but let's be honest. Let's be honest. I saw that Wave start up. They're up by 7, and I thought of you somewhere out in that crowd not doing the Wave. Like in my mind, I was just like, there's one guy sitting there being like, no, you're ruining it for everybody. Because I remember I saw it start and I looked at the clock. And it said 10:22 remaining in the fourth quarter. And I just thought, man, with what's on the line here, I don't know, this is a good idea. And on top of it, it was a very well executed Wave. Like, must have been 95%. Everybody was loving it. I had people in the suites to the right of me doing it. But it went on for like 2.5 minutes. They were still doing the Wave at the 8-minute mark when I look back. So
it was a full victory lap before the game was over. I mean, let's call it what it was. Now, I will say this. And maybe that's the cost when you have, the extra 6,000 people that are maybe there more for the event and partying. I mean, I really blame the people that started the Wave because there's a lot of folks that are just going to get in no matter what. Maybe, haven't seen the dark side of what you do, what happens when the wave comes way too early in a game you need to win.
They're oblivious to what happens when you start waving at that point, but they're having a great time. And I mean, 31,000 there last night. It was an awesome night at IG Field. It was incredible.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that to you. I mean, you've been all around the league and doing many games. I mean, it just seems to keep getting better and better here in Winnipeg. And last night's result notwithstanding, I mean, to top out 30K, the atmosphere in the building beforehand, during was absolutely phenomenal. And in some ways, I guess that sort of carried over into maybe a bit of a premature celebration. But honestly, I mean, you've been coming here for a few years. Have you noticed it as well? I mean, it just seems to be the momentum that this team has on the field and in the stands is at a point I can't ever remember being at.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. Like I said on my show earlier in the week, I think the atmosphere at IG Field is the best in the country for any sporting event. Like when you go there, it's a phenomenal event. I mean, better than anything you'll see in the National Hockey League. And like last night was a Thursday night. Today's Friday. Like it was a Thursday night, and they packed 31,000 in there. And it was just a good buzz overall in general around the city. You get to the airport, you see it. Last night after the game, I popped in quickly to the Elephant and Castle here at the hotel after the game, and everybody was talking about it. It was it's a good buzz. But I mean, last night would have been 13 in a row at home. They've lost two meaningful games over the last 2 seasons. So I mean, not only is it a great atmosphere, but you got this juggernaut to cheer for, which obviously helps.
We did have a funny conversation over a beer after the game, and I did say, well, you know what, if we wanted to give the fans in the crowd a break on the wave, maybe you just forget what it's like when you've won 2 straight championships and are 9-0 so far in the season. I mean, sort of things you normally are worried about and superstitious about go out the window when all you do is win. That being said, they were probably bound to lose at some point. It happened now. They move into the bye week. It'll be interesting to see how they come back. But I wanted to ask you, we've heard the calls. It was truly incredible that the kick to win the game. I mean, that's it. And there's been a few terrible kicks this year in the Canadian Football League, very short, makeable kicks that should be automatic. But the fact that this one didn't even have a chance of getting a single was, I think, the thing that was so incredibly shocking about the entire. How did you see that final play?
I was stunned, man. I was absolutely stunned. And then after you kind of settled down and think about it on the way home, and it takes a while traffic-wise to get out of IG Field. So you've got a lot of time to think in the car. So I was sitting there and we're talking about it. We're listening to the post-game show. And I was just like, all he had to do was miss it clean. Like, just miss it clean. And you probably win that game 18-17. It was essentially the only thing outside of a block, the only thing that could have happened that wasn't going to win them that football game. So, I know on the broadcast, right on the kick, I think I said the hold is good, and we got another look at it, and I thought it looked okay. I know one of my producers who was a kicker in college, he tweeted out today saying that he didn't think the hold was good, and that was the reason that Legio missed it. But, I mean, the ball was down, the laces were out. It was held pretty well, and just an all-time bad kick. I was stunned, and then good on Philpott because it took a bounce, and he able to get in front of it and then get that ball out to make sure that they didn't give up the one. So it was at that point, you're kind of just like, okay, wait a second, what's happening? Even when Zach had that fumble in the fourth quarter, you're like, hey, that's strange. It's like when Donnie didn't roll a strike in the Big Lebowski and then dies just moments later. That's kind of the feeling that I was getting. And, a huge shout out to Trevor Harris too. Like, of all the quarterbacks who've had a chance to lead a game-winning drive or a game-tying drive against the Bombers over the last few years, when Harris came out, I think most of us who've been around this league during this Bombers stretch, you're just thinking, oh, this is when the Bombers defense ends it. Like, this is when Willie gets a sack or they get an interception that's deflected 3 times or something like that. And Harris made a couple of great throws, especially to Rewucki, to put them in a spot to tie that game. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Harris. And I mean, listen, I thought Zach Collaros had a hell of a game too. I mean, this was not the vintage Bombers on the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was pressured, he was chased, and some of his best plays, I mean, particularly the touchdown to Schoen, was just brilliant improvisation and buying himself time to make a play. And but as far as the fourth quarter goes, I mean, it almost seemed, I mean, I'm sure you guys were mentioning it, I mean, a complete repeat of last week. I mean, you get tight through 3 quarters, Bombers get the ball, boom, 100-yard drive. up by a touchdown. And that, of course, was at the time when I think people thought, okay, we've seen this one before. They've got this thing taken care of. But credit to Montreal, they tie it up. But then the Bombers drive all the way back into a spot where you're almost guaranteed of a sure field goal. And I mean, if that one goes in like it would for 9 times out of 10, we're sitting here talking about a team that just finds a way to get it done. I mean, it almost took divine intervention to finally put one in the loss column for the Bombers last night.
Well, what was crazy about it, and we pointed this out on the post-game video that we did for the website at tsn.ca, is before both of those kicks, Leggio had an extended period of time to think about it, right? Because there was the fumble that they reviewed by Oliveira on that play to set up the field goal. We had a little bit of extra time there, and then they challenged the play in overtime. So we had a little bit of extra time there, and I'm just not sure he's a guy who, maybe can deal with the extra time and letting that pressure build up. Because prior to last night, I mean, I had him down as 18 of 20 heading into that game. Maybe it was 19 of 21, but I had 18. He's kicking 90% on the year coming into that game last night. But in both of those situations, it wasn't just hey, trot out there and knock one home. It was wait a second, there's going to be a little bit of a stoppage here. And I mean, I just can't believe the way that it all went down. And you mentioned it, like at the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was like a switch flip. And we were talking about it on the broadcast. It was just like, all of a sudden they just finished off a 100-yard drive, Brady Oliveira 19 yards, and here come the Bombers again. Because going into the fourth quarter last night, they'd outscored the opposition 80-38 in the fourth quarter. And I asked Jackson Jeffcoat, I was on a Zoom call with him earlier in the week, and I said, what is it about the fourth quarter? Like, because last week, the special teams return, there was a sack in the fourth quarter, there was an interception in the fourth quarter. Their defense usually just steps up and make plays. And I said, what happens? Like, what's said? He goes, that's the thing. Nothing has to be said. Like, everybody knows you just get to the fourth quarter. It's time to lock it down. And last night, maybe it was fitting the way that they managed to get to Zach and knock that ball away, because early in the game, he had no time. It wasn't until Pierce made some adjustments and got him rolling out of the pocket that the Bombers were really kind of able to get the offense going. So what a game. What a rematch. It was terrific last night.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I'm certainly the expected CFL excitement we got out of that game. The game you're calling tomorrow night, marquee matchup if there was one. I mean, give us a little preview of this BC Calgary game from what you've been digging into. I'm really excited to watch this one, even with no skin in the game.
Yeah, I'm excited to call this one. Now last night, I was just like, when I came into the week, I was like, I can't wait for that game on Saturday. And then last night's game happens, and I don't know how the game on Saturday lives up to the one that we called last night. But Nathan Rourke. I mean, you got Nathan Rourke heading into Calgary. And what's kind of interesting, we talked about it a little bit on the way home last night. The Bombers lost. As fun as it would have been to have been like, hey, they're 12-0. Can they do it again? 13-0. If the Lions go and beat Calgary, I mean, the Bombers are at 9-1 and the Lions are at 7-1. So I think that would be excellent if we get this pushed down the season. And BC and Winnipeg play 2 of the final 3 weeks of the year. If they're both like 14-2 or something, that's going to set up for some great drama late in the season. But Calgary's interesting. They're banged up. They're banged up still. They won't have Kadeem Carey in this game, which is going to make a huge difference. Mind you, Dedrick Mills, who played last week, was actually really good, and they've been hyped about him all year. So we'll get a look at that. But the BC Lions, I mean, Rourke, I did that game last week, man, and he's ridiculous. I mean, he goes 34 of 37. And I know for sure, I thought at least 2 of the balls could have been caught that weren't caught. So think about that for a second. And then, 5 touchdowns on top of it. He's on a record-setting pace. Right now, he's on pace to break Doug Flutie's all-time touchdown record by 6. So we'll see if Calgary, they'll be at home. It should be a pretty good crowd there on Saturday night. We'll see if Calgary can slow him down. But I know he hasn't been perfect every single game, but he's been very impressive. And having a chance to get to know him a little bit, like we do usually like a Zoom call with the quarterbacks, the coaches, and another player every week on our broadcast. So I got to talk to Nate quite a bit this year. And for 24 years old, he's mature beyond his years. It's insane. Like, I try to get it out of him. How does he wind down after a game? He goes, it's kind of tough. He goes, he's just so engulfed in football. Like, he doesn't really do anything else. It's remarkable. And you know what? Great chance for Calgary here. Both these teams have only lost to the Bombers. So if Calgary can go out and beat BC, I think that says a lot about the Calgary Stampeders. But Bo Levi will have to be better than he's been lately. He had a couple good games at the beginning of the year, but he's been kind of pedestrian as of late for the Stamps, and they'll need him to step up big time.
Yeah, loss of Trey Roberson, I think, is going to be impactful as well in that Calgary secondary with the way Rourke's been flinging it. And, just to your point about BC, potentially getting to 7-1. I mean, this does certainly make, I think, things a lot more interesting going forward in that I really believe that if the Bombers, I don't think Calgary or BC or anyone's coming into Winnipeg in the middle of November in the cold and beating the Bombers for a chance to go to the Grey Cup.
Unless there's a wave.
Well, stop it. You're triggering me. But to be honest, I mean, BC on their home turf, I know the Bombers look great and took care of them in there. I mean, I think that would be, if we are talking about first place being up for grabs in those final 2 weeks of the season or the 2 games for the Bombers, I think BC has one in the middle. Certainly would be an incredible way because I think first place in the West is unbelievably important, maybe more so this year even than normal.
Yeah, it would be very important. I don't know how much Calgary ends up factoring into it, but they've found a way so far, right? So they've done a pretty good job as well. The top end of the West is pretty impressive right now. There's no denying it. It's really fun football. Even that other game on Saturday, man. Elks and Riders. The Riders got to get back on track here. They started the year very well, lost 3 in a row going into their bye week. If they come out of a bye week and go to Edmonton and lose, that is not going to go over very well in that city for sure.
Dusty, this has been awesome. Folks, if you haven't already, obviously you're enjoying what he's doing on TSN. If you're missing sports in the morning, get on the app, check out the Nielsen Show on TSN 1260, and make sure you have subscribed to the Lock Shop. We'll have a new episode on Tuesday, and unlike the attendees last night, I'm not even going to refer to anything. I'm just going to say, hopefully we will be as excited even more that on Tuesday's show than we've been for the last 4 weeks. Real ones know what I'm talking about. Dusty, have a great one, my man, and a great call tomorrow night. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys.
All right, great stuff with the big guy. New Lock Shop, and we'll announce some very exciting stuff for the Lock Shop heading into football season next week, so make sure to join us. If you haven't checked it out already, wherever you get the Winnipeg Sports Talk podcast or Skates and Plates, as Brandon Rewucki's coming up next, type in the Lock Shop and make sure you subscribe. Bigger and better things coming in the next month into NFL season. All right, we've been talking a lot of Bombers. We will always do that courtesy of our friends at Princess Auto, great sponsors of Blue Bomber football, and of course the Princess Auto Tailgate Zone. Bye week next week, but a week, 2 weeks from yesterday, the 25th, the Stamps are in town. Should be another great game, great crowd, and great party at the Princess Auto Tailgate Zone before the game. Make sure you head out there for $5 beers, $3.50 hot dogs and pop, and great music from our man DJ Finesse and prizes from the Princess Auto crew. Of course, Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, 2 locations in Winnipeg, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Hey, congrats to Nick and Nikki and the entire DQ team. The Miracle Treat Day yesterday seemed to be a huge hit with all that money going to the Children's Miracle Network and the Children's Hospital here in Manitoba. You may have missed Miracle Treat Day, but it's still a great time to go get a Blizzard, a Stack Burger, or maybe a cake for the weekend. Pop by any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs, DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. And hit them up on Instagram as well, DQ Manitoba, if you want to custom order a cake in advance. And hey, lots of CC and Gingers cranked back last night at the game, both in the tailgate zone and at the game. Of course, Canadian Club, proud sponsor of the Bombers and all the great Beam Suntory products available throughout IG Field. But the one you saw a lot of yesterday was right there on the YouTube screen, the new Canadian Club and Ginger Ale. Pick it up in 6 packs at your local beer store or Manitoba Liquor Mart. Ready to drink. All you need is a cooler, and you are set. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in for his weekly visit to the program. Quieter. We'll get to Jet stuff in a minute, but Rew, I guess it was too much to ask for this team just to win every single game, but what a crazy way that one ended. With as Westy, who just joined us, said, one of the worst struck kicks that he's ever seen considering the distance that they needed. The single would have won the game. It was just a bizarre way for this one to even get to overtime. And, sad for Legio because he's had such a great first half of the season with the pressure that was on him at the start of the year. But unfortunately, you shank something like that in that situation. And a lot of the good you've done building up in the first 9 weeks goes out the window pretty fast.
Yeah, all of it. All of it's gone. I honestly, it was the last thing I thought of when I went to bed, and it was the first thing I thought of when I woke up, because I'm not even mad. I'm like in awe of it. It was the worst kick I've ever seen in pro football. I mean, maybe even in football in general, but you just like, we all just assumed like it must have got blocked or tipped, right? Like there's no way a professional kicker would duck hook one off like they're off the first tee at Breezy Bend, with the first hole jitters. I still don't know what to make of it. And then, it's something we all probably could have laughed at if he drills the, 35, 37 yarder after that, like tie it up, like, okay, whatever, it happened, but you have a chance to redeem yourself. And then he clanks one. So I think people saying that he should lose his job or should be cut are being a little harsh, because he is this team's punter. But I don't know how, if you're Kyle Walters, you don't bring a kicker in immediately after the bye week, or at least when the first round of NFL cuts are made, because we went through this last year. And look, I know it's just one game and a couple of kicks, and he's been good this year, but you're kidding yourself if you honestly can say to yourself, I trust Mark Leggio to make a big kick when the Bombers need one, and they're probably going to need one, and it's probably going to be with a Western Final or a Grey Cup on the line.
No, you're right. I mean, it's certainly something I'm sure they're thinking about right now. Knowing Mike O'Shea and what he's built in that room, and the fact that they have the luxury of, having 9 wins on the season already, I have no doubt he'll get the opportunity. I'm not sure. I would doubt that they bring another guy in right next week, but it won't take much to have some competition. And of course, I believe Ali Murtad is still on the practice roster, so you still do have a guy in. But I mean, listen, Leggio has won the job, but only missed 2 kicks all season. Well, field goals. He had missed a few extra points. But anyways, just a bizarre way to break the streak. And it was wild walking out of the game last night. I mean, listen, it was a fun night, a great crowd. I mean, everything about last night was amazing, with the exception of the way that the game finished. But it wasn't like people were cantankerous or angry. They were just sort of shocked. And I mean, there's like Westy was mentioning, there's a whole generation of fans that don't remember the dark days. I mean, they're just not used to ever losing.
I know, that's what's hilarious about the whole, and even Mike O'Shea, like the camera goes right to him after it hits the upright, and he's laughing, like visibly just laughing, because this whole thing is just ridiculous. Like the Bombers are going for the undefeated season. And then you have one of the maybe the wildest kicking finish in CFL history there. And I still don't know what to make of it, man. I mean, look, there were a lot of issues that popped up in that game that Bombers fans can point to and say, this needs to get cleaned up pretty quickly here. Most notably, the interior of that offensive line, who have had three out of the past 4 weeks have been pretty rough for them. And Claros is getting banged up pretty good, but man, like if we're talking about should you punt it through the end zone or kick a field goal when you're at the 25-yard line, I'm still a little flabbergasted at people defending Mark Leggio and all this. Like, it was a chip shot field goal and he didn't even make it to the end zone. I'm blown away that this happened in pro football. As Rob Pepper, this might be the comment of the day in the chat, the Wendy's kick to win had better kickers. Oh, man. You know what? I feel for him, though. I mean, that job is, most of the time you are not even in the conversation. And then when you screw up, it can be the only thing everyone's talking about. And honestly, if you look at the game, you mentioned the interior of the offensive line. I thought that Zach Claros was running for his life sometimes and was brilliant at times outside of the pocket, especially touchdown to Dalton Schoen. But this team is capable of much better. They'd be the first ones to tell you. And I think most of the guys in that room are not going to hang this one on Mark Leggio. Although they did look... I would. They did look quite a bit like that Bomber team that just stepped up. Fourth quarter, no problem, 100-yard drive. It's crazy, hey? And I mean, the drive that if he makes that kick, which he should 99 out of 100 times, maybe 99.5,
We're just talking about how this team just decided, okay, we have to win the game now. Perfect. Because, I mean, that drive, the 100-yarder was impeccable. And when they got the ball back and they went down, I mean, that is exactly what Mike O'Shea, Buck Pierce was asking. They did everything that you would expect a team to do that would win the game. And, well, as we all know, it didn't end up that way. But this team's still in pretty darn good shape, I think.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They should be okay, right? I mean, on top of it too, they're like a fingernail away from a stuff on 3rd and goal, which I mean, from a league where receivers are consistently 3 to 4 yards offside on every single play to go on the fingernail on that, whatever. We're not going to go there, but yeah, they might only lose 1 or 2 more games the rest of the regular season. So if anything, it might not be the worst thing in the world to lose a semi-meaningless game, right? Where all the pressure of the undefeated season is thrown off you and they can just go ahead and focus on getting home field and focus on making it a three-peat.
Yeah, the only thing this team needs to worry about is making sure that West Final is in Winnipeg. And you want to go to the Grey Cup, you got to beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in November in IG Field. Brandon Rewucki's with us from Skates and Plates. What have you been talking about this week? And it's been a little slow. Of course, we did have Mason Appleton on the show earlier. He got a 3-year deal, and the Gus Bus is back on a 2-year deal, which was interesting. Both of these players, I think we all expect would get done. There wouldn't be any arbitration. I mean, what have you thought about? What do you think about the deals, and what do you think about where this leaves the Winnipeg Jets with a pretty determined number of cap space now that the RFAs are signed going into this final month of the offseason that you've been so enthusiastic about?
Yeah. People were debating the Mason Appleton contract like he signed a 7-year, $7 million deal, right? Because we haven't had
August.
People are just picking it up. People are saying it's a home run. Some people are like, this is the worst contract. How could you go 3 years? I like Appleton. I've always been a big fan. I might be a little biased because I like his game a lot. But, if anything, too, the Jets' inactivity this offseason in terms of, making moves kind of points to how important signing a guy like Appleton to 3 years at a relatively good number is. Because, look, Chevy wanted Danton Heinen, offered him more than, triple the amount that he got, didn't sign here. Same with Kelly Yarncroke, doesn't sign. Like, it's the Jets have proven it's difficult to attract even middle six talent to come and sign here. And if you can get a guy like Mason Appleton, who will be in his 20s for the entirety of the deal, I really don't see an issue with it. I definitely lean towards it being a bit of a home run than it being a bit of a negative for the Jets on this one. And I think, if we're talking about his ceiling, there's the chance he could be a support piece on a line inside the top six somewhere.
Well,
I think there's a bit of skill there.
Well, for sure. And you know what? If you dig into the analytic numbers, the one thing that really pops off the page is his forechecking and his success of winning battles in the offensive zone. And listen, I don't think the guy's ever going to be a trigger man that's going to put in 25 or 30 goals in a season. But I'll tell you what, the ability to win battles, to be first on the puck, to get the puck and dish it to talented offensive players that need the puck. Listen, I'm not sure that it happens right now, but over the course of this contract, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that opportunity at some point, and I wouldn't rule out him being, to use your word, a very great complementary player to some top offensive guys. And if you can have that, then you're getting closer to really balancing out that lineup. Although I do think at the start he'll be back with Adam Lowry, and those guys historically have been quite good together. And Lowry was far more productive post All-Star break and trade deadline once he had Appleton back, considering Vesalainen and the other guys that were on his wings to begin the season.
Yeah, you're probably looking at like something 30-ish points from Appleton. Play penalty kill is like, I don't know. I really don't see a downside to it at all. I think the trade, the reacquisition of Appleton is going to go down as one of Chevy's more savvier moves, right? Like you essentially give up, what was it, a 4th round pick to lose Appleton for 40 games. After the negative offseason, to put it one way, this was a move that I think Chevy did pretty well on here. Now, having said that, looking at the Appleton deal, one of the few right wingers on the roster, you look at the team's depth chart on the right side, And TSN.ca did kind of not even an analytical piece, but just a look at
hit piece.
A hit piece. Well, it's a hit piece if it's not true, man. If it's true, then it's just a cold splash of reality. The Jets are weak at right wing. And that's where, like, I like Mason Appleton, and I think Cole Perfetti's going to be good. But compared to other teams in the NHL, they're, I mean, below average is probably best case scenario going into this season. And that's if they hold on to Blake Wheeler. If they move on from him, you know, despite what people may think of him at this point in his career, the Jets are in a bit of a trouble spot there. And even with the high-end skill of Connor and Ehlers and all that, you know, you look at the forward group, and it seems almost sacrilegious to say because they've got so much talent, but are they better than average? Is this just like an average forward group in the NHL? Because while they've got some high-end talented pieces, there's major depth issues on this team. And we've seen the lack of bottom six production over 2, 3, 4 seasons now. It's I don't know. I've always just kind of like, it's one of those things maybe you take for granted with how good they had been in years past, but you look at it now and it's kind of tough to argue. I guess it's maybe more so other teams have leveled up a little bit and the Jets have either stagnated or regressed, but this isn't a high-end forward group anymore, and that's pretty disappointing to say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a very clear delineation right now between the top 6 and the bottom 6, and that's including Blake Wheeler and assuming he's still that player, and of course, assuming that he's still a member of the hockey club. The one thing that this does, though, with the signing of Appleton and Gus, it gives them some clarity as to how much cap space they have. And I know there's been talk, and Weaver was on yesterday saying that he still thinks that they'll sniff around on some free agents. I do sort of think that if that was going to happen, that may have already happened. I mean, you can always circle back, or maybe some guys realize that what they hoped was going to be there for them on the market wasn't there, and they've got to take, you know, less money or an option that maybe they weren't originally considering. My personal opinion, though, reading the tea leaves of how many teams are up or over the cap right now, is that cap space that the Jets do have can be incredibly valuable. And I mean, for me, if I had to peg what I would like to see happen, I think what makes the most sense, they have to move one of these defensemen. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to go in and, I mean, I think there'd be some real, I mean, whether it hurts the team on the ice, I mean, if you're sending a Sandberg and Ville Heinola back just because they're not waiver exempt to keep all those guys, I
what
don't
are you
think
doing? Yeah.
It's not a great way to start the season. I don't think it sends a good message. But if you can move one of the veteran defensemen to a team that needs a little bit of cap relief, you move a $3 or a $4 million defenseman, and maybe there's a $5 or a $6 million forward that can come back. Your cap distribution moves a little bit more from the blue line to the forward group, which I think will be important. Gives an opportunity for a younger player to come in and play, and helps the Jets where they need it the most. And that is exactly as you just laid out in a forward group that's been really depleted this offseason and over the last few years.
Yeah, that's the route I would go, right? Because there's some decent, I mean, Sonny Milano's the best of the bunch right now, but even then, he's not necessarily a needle mover, right? Like, how much is that going to, like, we're talking like maybe an extra win added or two to the, right? Like, it's nothing too substantial there. So I would, and this is something the Jets, in my opinion, have done a pretty poor job of over the last, I guess, dozen years, is weaponize their cap space, right? If you've got yourself in a really advantageous situation, go out there and use that to your benefit. And I think that is the way to go about it. Or maybe it's moving a Logan Stanley, or I mean, who knows who's out there, right? If it costs you maybe even a Heinola or a Sandberg, if it's a really, really high-end piece that you could bring in, maybe, right? Like, I don't know. Whoever it is, though, whoever is coming off the blue line for the Jets and whoever's coming in up front from a different team, that to me makes all the sense in the world. You know, I do wonder about, I guess you pull Yarvi in Edmonton, for example. I mean, Brendan Dillon would seem to make a good fit in Edmonton if you're looking to kind of keep it somewhat close salary-wise, or maybe it is a Logan Stanley that would go to the Oilers. But Puljujärvi's a relatively cheap addition who can play pretty much anywhere in your top nine, or at the very least like a second or a third line guy. You know, that's just a name that's been thrown about so much. But I mean, I'm still at the point right now that I'm kind of in shock that they're even somewhat contemplating going into the season with the exact same roster as last year. So like I'm still of the belief that something has to be done or will be done. We'll see. But I agree with you where I would much rather use that as a trade piece as opposed to let's bring in a couple guys for, $2 million each. And it might be a slight improvement over some of the younger in-house options that we have.
Well, maybe we'll see if we've got a little bit more action in around the Jets next week. Matt, Vegas, they go from having the arguably, I mean, I've never been totally sold on Robin Lehner, to be honest, and I know Fleury had his ups and downs. But that tandem of Fleury and Lehner was as good as it was in the National Hockey League for the most part, about two goalies. And now Logan Thompson, LB, and Hutch are the three goalies under contract. I mean, it's crazy how quickly things can change. And this is a big situation for the Vegas Golden Knights now.
Yeah. And, I grew up in a house of goalies, unfortunately. But one thing they've always mentioned to me with bigger tendies, and is Lehner like 230 or like he's a unit, but when you play the position and you're at that weight, even if you're in shape, it's so much stress on your hips and joint. Like it's goaltending is such a brutal position on certain areas of the body. And my younger brother always said, guys like Lehner and even Price to an extent, Price is a heavier goalie. There's just not a lot of room for error once you get into your 30s. And you always wondered, if those contracts handed to guys like Lehner and Price would be worth it in the end, or would they be even be able to play? And that's kind of bearing out with both those guys right now. But what does Vegas do right now? Like you literally have, you talk about the Jets having minimal options up front. It's kind of like Semyon Varlamov from Long Island, and that's about it. And if they don't get that deal done, they're pretty much stuck with what they got here. And it's funny too, because right now that opens up enough cap space, I think, for like $7 million on their roster, aka a single Max Pacioretty. You wonder if they regret that deal at all, even though he had the Achilles injury. But butterfly effect, maybe he doesn't have that if he stays with the Vegas Golden Knights. The West kind of stinks again this year, man. Like there's maybe. Well,
let me ask you about the Pacific. The Pacific right now, because I think Vegas is obviously in a very difficult situation. And again, I know it's August. I mean, they're not giving out the cup right now, and it's still a ways away. The lot can happen. But when you look at those top three teams, let's include the Kings. In fact, top four teams: Vegas, the Kings, and the two Alberta teams. Is there a clear-cut number one? I mean, has Edmonton surpassed everybody? And the Flames, like I thought the Flames would take a huge step back. I'm not so sure now, at least in the short term, depending on what happens with Uyghur. But holy smokes, the fact that they just took the Johnny Gaudreau contract, scribbled out his name, put Huberdeau on it, handed it over, and got him to sign it. They've actually salvaged something out of this offseason. But still, the bar was set so high last year. Going to be very tough to be where they were.
Yeah, and they just threw in Mackenzie Weegar too. No big deal, a top pair defenseman. For me, Edmonton's number one. They've got the best forward group in the NHL. They upgraded in goal. Their defense is meh, but I think meh might be good enough with McDavid. Like they don't need great, they need meh, and they've got meh now. So for me, Edmonton's number one. I would probably lean Calgary number two still, but I wonder if the biggest winners in this aren't maybe the Vancouver Canucks. Like, would you maybe take the Canucks roster over the Golden Knights right now, considering Vegas's massive black hole in net there? I don't know. Like, maybe this is an opportunity for a team like the Canucks and the Kings to challenge for either the third or the fourth spot in the Pacific Division there. That'll be an intriguing race. I don't know if it's going to be a particularly good one because I think they're a step below, especially when you look out east. Like the Eastern teams are. It's a bit of a bloodbath out in the Eastern Conference. But the other kind of funny part of it is, Buffalo, when they made the Jack Eichel trade at the time, was kind of looking like, oh, they just sold him for 30 cents on the dollar. Well, they're kind of looking at this situation, right? And poor Jack Eichel's like, glad I got out of Buffalo so I can go play for a playoff team. And now that they're dropping left and right in Vegas before the season's even gotten underway, you wonder if Eichel is going to have to wait another year or find another destination before he makes the playoffs.
Oh, I'd love a trade request. I want out right now. Yep. Full KD. Something like that. Brandon Rewucki's with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Just quickly, I did mention that Huberdeau. I mean, you think was that something that they had to do in his organization if they had the opportunity to get a guy like that signed long-term, hold your nose, pay the money, do the 8-year deal, because of, almost in some ways to sort of reverse a lot of the negativity, almost PR from a guy like Johnny that had been there the whole time and left 15 mil on the table to go to Columbus.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. And in all honesty, I think a lot of mistakes happen when teams re-up with players they just acquired via trade. If you look at the list of guys that have signed right after being they have all the leverage, right? And that's a dangerous spot if you're a GM there. And Huberdeau and his agent certainly took advantage of that. I wonder if I might have slow played that a little bit, like go into the season, see how things are after 30 or 40 games. And if you have to flip them at the deadline, you get a ton of picks, right? Like I don't know if I necessarily would have jumped all in right off the bat there, but I don't necessarily think it's a poor move either. I think he's still, Huberdeau is going to be like a 90 to 100 point guy for a few years at least. And with that back end, they've gotten Calgary, which is, it might be the best. You can make an argument for it being the best in the league. And then you've got Markstrom as a for sure top 10 goalie. They just need a little bit of firepower up front, and they're going to be a tough out for a lot of teams this year. So I'll be intrigued to see how it plays out. And I do wonder ultimately what happens with Uyghur here, because I'm still a little bit at a loss for words that he's the throw-in in all of this when he's right up there in terms of impact with a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau. But again, after being in such a tight spot with Tkachuk and with Gaudreau, that is about as good of a GME job as you could do. It's not like a total grand slam, but it's a solid 2-run shot if you're Brad Treliving to be able to pick up those pieces.
Hey, before we go, fill people in on what's cooking at Skates and Plates in the middle of August.
Yeah, so next week we're going to kick off our, I guess you would call it positional rankings. So we'll see where the Jets rank in terms of forward groups across the NHL, defense groups, goaltending, coaching, all that. So that kind of kicks off our early look into preseason and the upcoming year. So we'll take a look at the forward group. And like I said, I wonder, like I haven't sat down and went team by team where the Jets might rank. But, in years past, it was kind of, are they going to crack the top 10? This year, are they going to be in the teens? Are they going to be in the 20s? Like, I wonder, I really wonder after I look at it, just how far they're going to drop this upcoming year. But that'll be coming out next week.
Looking forward to it, dude. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up next week on WST.
Sounds good. Have a good one, man.
Follow on Twitter at Brandon Rewucki, and check out Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite podcast like Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right. Hacksaw coming up, then Marbles, and the video of my reaction when the wave broke out with 11 or 10 minutes left in a one-score game last night. Many of you will enjoy that. I do want to thank our friends at Breezy Bend. Great support of ours. And, of course, FedEx Playoffs is going on right now. I'm keeping one eye on the leaderboard. And, hey, Lowry's right hand. There's our guy, Tony Finau. He's 2 under through 5. 2 off the lead. Sepp Straka, 10 under. Denny McCarthy and Brian Harmon. Or Denny McCarthy's in at 9 under. Brian Harmon's in at 8 under. And Tony Finau and JJ Spawn, both 8 under right now. Still on the front 9. First round of the FedEx Cup playoffs this week in Memphis. Then they continue on to the Northern Trust next week for round 2 of the FedEx playoffs. If you're thinking about a great long-term home and one of Winnipeg's top private clubs for you and your family on the golf course, check out Breezy Bend. Talk to our friend Corey Johnson about getting on the waiting list, or check out everything Breezy has to offer online at breezybend.ca. Hey, another great game tonight and a doubleheader tomorrow in the Canadian Football League. Pop by your local Boston Pizza if you're looking for a great spot to watch the game, and check out their awesome new summer menu with the carnitas, pizzas, and tacos. Pizza flights are back. Great summer drink menu. And hey, if you are staying at home, check out their game day deals and order online at bostonpizza.com. And hey, don't forget, Assiniboia Downs is back with live racing on Monday night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We'll get back to our picks on Monday's show for the live racing on Monday night. But if you do want to make an arrangements in advance, get a reservation in the dining room for that amazing prime rib buffet, call them up at 885-3330 and make reservations, and tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right, before Hacksaw gets in with us for a little NFL notebook before marbles, let's take a quick rip out to the ballpark. Andrew Collier, Goldeyes GM, waiting for us to set up a huge weekend with some great fan promos at Shaw Park for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Cash, what's going on? Great to have you on the program. Fellas on a bit of a run right now.
Yeah, they're playing well. They're swinging the bat really well, and the pitchers are doing their job. So it's been a lot of fun here at home lately. We've rattled off some wins.
No doubt. Sioux City, as we mentioned, in now. I mean, I was at a couple of the games earlier this week. The Milwaukee Milkmen dressing exactly like the umpires is something I was not ready to go. I said, I have a picture of it. All you needed to stick was a white number on the back of the umpire, and they would be indistinguishable other than maybe carrying a few extra pounds. That being said, let's talk about the schedule this weekend, because very, very fun night tomorrow. But before we even get to tomorrow night, tonight, Manitoba Social, Golden Boy bobblehead, fireworks. Seems like it's going to be an amazing kickoff to the weekend.
Yeah, I think we're over 5,000 tickets sold right now and climbing by the hour. Yeah, the Golden Boy bobblehead right there.
It's awesome.
We've actually had these since 2020 and just been waiting to be able to give them away. So yeah, Manitoba Social Night. Who doesn't love a social? So we're going to have everything. We're going to have the social music. We're going to have snack packs with the Kubassaw, cube cheese, pickles. I can't confirm whether or not there will be a salami shoulder or two during the game.
I was about to put a bounty on your head and say, if anyone can salami shoulder the GM of the Goldeyes tonight and tweet a picture at me, I'll have a reward. There's a bounty on not your head, your shoulder for tonight's event.
Wow, I'm gonna have to have my head on a swivel tonight, making sure. Yeah, we're gonna have great silent auction prizes, just like at a social. $1,500 gift card on Coolbet is one of the prizes. We've got a Jets prize pack. ABC Fire and Safety. ABC Fire and Safety is the sponsor tonight. Yeah, fireworks after the game. It's going to be awesome.
I know, and I've been mentioning this all week, but our friends at Wallace & Wallace very excited to sponsor tomorrow's game, and that is the Bark in the Park. This is such a cool event.
It really is. I think this will be the fourth time we've done this, and we've had upwards of 800 dogs here, and it's just it's a scene. There's all kinds of dogs, and you know what? Kudos to the owners, because knock on wood, up until now, the dogs have been very well behaved. They haven't caused any trouble, or the owners haven't caused any trouble yet. So it's always a fun game.
So the Bark in the Park is tomorrow night, and then Sunday, finishing it off, matinee game to finish off the series, and hopefully another successful one, and another great giveaway there heading up north.
Yeah, great partners this year. Coolbet is giving away to one lucky fan a trip for two on Coolbet up to Churchill, do a polar bear tour, a couple nights stay, some dinners. Yeah, it's a great trip. I think I might take the day off and buy a ticket just so I have a chance of winning that trip. I'd love to do that.
Well, I'm quite thankful that our shows will be complete for the week after this, and can spend quite a bit of time at the ballpark. And of course, our friends at Little Brown Jug pouring the Hefeweizen and the Black Lager as well over at Craft Beer Corner right now. You might know where to find me if you come to the game tonight. And it always gets going tonight. If someone wants one of those Golden Boy bobbleheads, I would suggest they get there early.
I would suggest, yeah, they're going to go quick. It's a very unique item, and we're looking forward to giving it away. Like I said, they've been in storage for 2 years, so we finally get to unleash the Golden Boy.
All right, goldeyes.com, folks, for tickets. And as I say, every time I go to the game, there's a ton of people lining up for seats. It'll take a little while. Get them online beforehand, save the wait, and get in there to get things going. Cash, great to see the sweep. Let's see if we can bring the brooms out again for another successful weekend and keep the fish charging to the top of the division right now. Thanks for doing this, and have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you at the ballpark.
Yeah, let me know how many you need me to set aside for you for each game.
All right, great stuff from Andrew Collier. Yeah, going to be an awesome night. I mean, tomorrow, the Bark at the Park, always so cool with all the dogs at the game. And I'm looking forward to tonight's game. A little fireworks action afterwards should be a great way to get the weekend going. And again, if you are planning on going to the game, as I mentioned, get your tickets in advance, get them digitally on your phone, and avoid the massive line that seemingly is there every night for people walking up to the ballpark. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton is coming up right away, and then we'll have marbles and a great way to finish off the week. Oh, and the video from the Wave last night as well. That's all coming up. Coolbet lines in addition. But right now, let's welcome him back to the program. The star of the new Lee Hacksaw Hamilton YouTube channel, and of course, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Lee, have you gotten into the world of Instagram? Are you doing TikToks and telling people to swipe up and whatnot? How's it all going?
You're asking that type of question to somebody that still has a Royal Manual typewriter in his garage. I dove into the 21st century by getting involved in podcasting 2 weeks ago. It's nonstop. It's a lot of work. I'm doing it. That plus my website, plus my TV work, plus freelance writing, plus all the stuff I'm doing for the TSN station. So yeah, I have a lot of time to go TikToking with somebody else. But no, it's been fun. It's been different. It's technology. But like I said, I do still have a manual Royal typewriter in my garage.
I love it. It sounds like you're busier now than maybe you've ever been before, and that's it's a very good thing. Oh, it's busy in the NFL. We've got full slate of preseason games this weekend, and shockingly to many, sounds like Deshaun Watson is going to be QB1 for the Cleveland Browns this week. Lee, maybe fill our folks in on where things are at with his 6-game suspension and appeal from the National Football League, and essentially what is going forward for Deshaun Watson on and off the field, as well as his Cleveland Browns.
Hustler, the special master arbitrator that is hearing the appeal that the NFL filed in the Deshaun Watson case is also in the middle of negotiations. We're led to believe that the Cleveland Browns quarterback and his lawyers have presented, maybe last night, or maybe it was early hours this morning, have presented an alternative set of discipline for the Browns quarterback on the sexual misconduct case. The National Football League, of course, has appealed the first judge, the discipline hearing officer, who ruled 6-game suspension without pay. That's all. NFL's filed all this documentation that this was egregious, that he was a predator, that he showed no remorse, and that he has problems. And they want him sent to counseling as part of an expanded suspension. Now, the NFL went to this special arbitrator who's hearing the final appeal, and they asked for 12 games and an $8 million fine. Deshaun Watson's lawyers, agents, attorneys last night or early hours this morning came back with 8 games, $5 million. Now they're arguing about some of the other conditions the NFL, Andrew, wants to install. One has to do with he has to undergo immediate evaluation, counseling for sexual addiction. Also, there's a clause in the NFL proposal that would indicate he has to apply for face-to-face reinstatement with Roger Goodell. So they're still really separated as to how they're going to get to a solution. NFL, I was told, does not want him in uniform tonight in that Cleveland-Jacksonville. NFL does not want him as part of the training camp going forward while this appeal is going on. And why Peter Harvey, who is the special master arbitrator, has not rendered a decision yet is a little bit surprising, but maybe it's because he's trying to mediate an increased discipline measure without giving the NFL what they want, but at the same time letting Deshaun Watson go scot-free. A little piece of history here. The NFL, Sue Robinson, the judge who initiated the 6-game suspension, she based her suspension on what the NFL had done in the past, in the history of guys involved with domestic abuse. The greatest suspension ever handed down for an NFL player was only 6 games. You know, that's the Kareem Hunt. That's the Ray Rice situation. Well, the NFL has said this was much more egregious. This guy is a predator. You, the judge, wrote about all of his shortcomings. We don't think a baseline 6-game suspension is what he deserves. We think he deserves a lot more. That's why this thing has been held up to the point it is. And as it relates to Cleveland, Cleveland has really been steadfast silent during this whole process. But it begs the question, somebody in the media, national media, Cleveland media, needs to ask the question, what do the Browns stand for if you're letting this guy represent you when everybody knows what he did? And for Deshaun Watson, Andrew, he has said, I did nothing wrong, showed no remorse, but he's willing to accept an 8-game suspension and a $5 million fine, even though he did nothing wrong. What does this say about him? And this stuff, this is going to be stapled to his resume the rest of his life. Now, he may be a great player, but he's obviously not a great person. And everybody that I know is of the opinion this guy should get nailed just because of the multiples of women. They said 24. He settled 23 of the 24 cases out of court. There's one unsettled. But there's being reported there was as many as 66 women that he made contact with in a 17-month span. So it's really an ugly story. I think we're close to the finish line. And if he goes out the door for 8 games, or if it winds up being a 12-game suspension, what does Cleveland do? I'm led to believe Cleveland's going to approach San Francisco about a deal for Jimmy Garoppolo, because they got Jacoby Brissett, the journeyman from Indianapolis and Miami, and that's the only quarterback of note they got on the roster. Garoppolo was healthy. Garoppolo was throwing on the side, coming off shoulder surgery, not practicing with the 49ers. And San Francisco, Andrew's got its own set of circumstances. They have to get him off the roster by August 30th, or else he counts $25 million against the salary cap. They're trying to get a draft pick from somebody. A couple of weeks ago, Andrew, while you were on holiday, by the way, how dare you take a vacation? A couple of weeks ago, San Francisco gave his agent permission, Andrew, to talk to other teams. And they talked to Seattle and they talked to Houston. I was told the Seahawks and the Texans both came back and told Garoppolo's agent, if you want your client placed here, we'd be willing to talk to the Niners about some form of late draft pick compensation. But you got to restructure down the contract. We're not paying you $25 million coming in the front door. So those talks have stalled. Whether Cleveland would inherit a $25 million quarterback or they'd make the same stance on Garoppolo's arrival in Cleveland remains to be seen. But as soon as the Deshaun Watson domino falls, Andrew, I believe then something's going to happen with Garoppolo. But San Francisco's got to come off the roster by August 30th because of the guarantees in the contract.
It's interesting you mentioned Cleveland. It does make sense, but so much of it has to do with Deshaun Watson because of the outlay and the investment in him and obviously the cap. If it's not Cleveland, are there some other landing spots for Jimmy Garoppolo that sort of make sense to you, Hacksaw?
Well, if he's released, he doesn't get any guaranteed money from San Francisco. The unique part of the final year of his contract is non-guaranteed. But if he's there August 31st, he counts against their cap, because then it does become a guaranteed contract. If he's released out in the street and they get nothing for him, his price tag comes down appreciably. Seattle's not going to pay him $25 million or $20 million or maybe $15 million. Houston surely is not, although they've got a quarterback, and Seattle's got Geno Smith and the ex-Bronco Drew Lock. So we'll just have to wait and see. And, of course, a team could lose a quarterback in any of the next 3 preseason games, and it changes the whole equation. Garoppolo is not a bad quarterback, Andrew. He's 31-14 as a starter. Now, he's had a lot of significant injuries. That's the issue, is he takes a lot of punishment, and he's had 3 major injuries in the course of his career in New England and in San Francisco. But if you're going to get him to play your season, I think you want him in camp sooner than later to crash course him with the playbook. So, we got a lot of storylines in the NFL. We have potential of 9 different starting quarterbacks this year by the time we get to Labor Day weekend. And those are the storylines are probably the 2 most significant names out there right now, Watson and Garoppolo.
Hey, what's going on with the Champs? Sounds like there's some significant injury concerns already with the Rams, and it almost comes with the territory when you have such a veteran-laden roster that that LA does.
Well, they should be concerned. They're not uttering a lot of public concern about the situation in LA with quarterback Matthew Stafford. But, he played with an injured elbow all last year, and he kind of grinded and gritted his way through it. But right after the Super Bowl, they fast-forward aggressive treatment. He had plasma platelet injection into the elbow, and that normally means a shutdown for 6 weeks. Well, they held him out of all the off-season throwing workouts. He took part in all the meetings and all. and they held him out of a bunch of the OTA throwing sessions. And he's thrown intermittently in the Rams practices since these camps opened, but they shut him down again. And the biggest concern I have, and I think he's a great player and a great leader, and he has been the difference maker in what Rams football has become since he arrived from the Detroit Lions. But Andrew, you go out to Winnipeg Blue Bomber practices, you full well know that quarterback has to practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and has to make a lot of throws to get his rhythm and get his timing with whatever the game plan package is. If Stafford can't throw much Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, does that really impact the timing of your offense, and does it change a lot of things? So that's one big issue there. They got a running back depth issue. There is no Robert Woods at wide receiver. He was traded. They have not re-signed Odell Beckham Jr. He has not recovered from the surgery to that knee right after the Super Bowl. So they're a little bit down on the pass reception game-breaking department too, although they did pick up a Bears wide receiver to obviously counter what Cooper Kupp does on the other side. But I'd really be concerned if I'm the Rams, and I think they're concerned, and they're not being honest with anybody about how much he can practice, he being Stafford. And they're calling it, the insiders are calling it acute tendonitis. And when you got to make 30 to 50 throws every day in practice, and you got acute tendonitis, what does that do to you come game day on Sunday? So, yeah, I'd be concerned about the champions right now.
Hey, one other quarterback story. It sounds like Kirk Cousins, who, of course, was in the midst of a whole bunch of COVID controversies last year, has COVID and won't play this week. Certainly probably better to get it now in week one of the preseason than during the regular season. Just thoughts on the Vikings, though, going into this season. Some pretty significant changes in the front office, coaching, and but a lot of talent on that team, Lee.
There is, and it underachieved last year, and I put that at the front door. The fired head coach, Mike Zimmer, who I think really became a bear to deal with. If you read between the lines what Vikings players say, a lot of critical comments about Mike Zimmer and his relationships with players and how he treated players, et cetera, et cetera. So he's gone. I'm friends with the new coach, Kevin O'Connell. He's a real bright light guy. Like him a great deal, has learned under some really good people as a quarterback coach and then an offensive coordinator. But Kirk Cousins is the trigger man on what's a really, really good offense. And if Kirk Cousins can't play for a chunk of time because of this COVID situation, that really hurts that team. Now, they've indicated through all the OTAs, the players have indicated they are not going to be a run-first team, despite the brilliance of Dalvin Cook, the running back, that they're going to be a throw-first team. But now maybe they have to rethink this. In the COVID cases for everybody, they're different in everybody's body. Some guys get it. I thought I had it. I had a terrible cold in the spring. I lost my sense of taste and smell for 3 weeks. And I went and got tested twice. I didn't have it. Go figure that out. Some guys have minor symptoms and they're right back. The league says you have to sit 5 days in isolation and you get a test clean twice. So if it's a mild case, he's probably back in camp next week and he practices and he's got 2 preseason games to get this thing up and ready. However, if it's more significant and everybody reacts differently, maybe it turns out to be more extended. And to complicate the whole thing, Andrew, is the reality that he is unvaccinated. That's a big issue. It was an issue last year on a falling out between Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins that he refused to get vaccinated. There's probably players on each team, but this is a significant guy making $43 million a year who's the leader of your franchise, and he just refused to get vaccinated. Now he's got COVID. So I guess we can hope it's only 5 days isolation and this thing goes away. But, in other cases, it doesn't turn out to be 5 days. It turns out to be a heck of a lot longer.
Lee, cannot wait to get closer to the regular season and keep up these chats. But just before we go, I do want to mention Lee's podcast is live. The YouTube channel is on. Shout out to Schickster. I see Schickster just put in, I'm the latest subscriber to Lee's channel. Remo will put that in, but just give quickly people a bit of a plug on what you've got going on the audio and video part of it, which is now on the YouTube channel.
Well, I've had historically for a decade my website, which is all written. I write on it every day of the year, LeeHacksawHamilton.com, and Best 15 Minutes in Sports, Hacksaw's Headlines, One Man's Opinion column, and all these Hacksaw mini polls that I do. And I ventured into the podcast, and I didn't sink. I didn't go under. I've done 3 of them so far. I'm getting a lot of unique response, but it's on YouTube and it's on Facebook and it's on Twitter and it's on the audio channels too. And again, some of this is Chinese to me. I don't know very much about this, but it's just Lee Hacksaw Hamilton podcast. You should be able to find it. Hey, subscribe to it and subscribe to the alerts on my website. Every time I write something, it shows up on your cell phone.
Hacksaw, have a great weekend. Looking forward to chatting with you next week and keep up the great work on online now as well. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Always enjoy being with you on Beer Friday. Thanks, Andrew.
Crack one for us, Lee. There it is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton with us. Of course, the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. But make sure you check out what Saw's got going on over on the YouTube channel and on the podcast as well. All right, Friday afternoon. You know what that means, folks. We're going to be getting to some marbles coming up for a minute. But let's get Remis back in here. Man, this has been an awesome show. Just a complete whirlwind. Great to get Collier and Westy in. Of course, Dustin Nielson and the Hacksaw and Rewucki. I can't remember the last time we cranked 5 people into a show, but I figured this would be a great way to get into the weekend.
A lot of, Bombers lost us. Sky's falling, right? No, they're still 9-1, but gives us something to talk about. And yeah, good to get that NFL chatter in with Hacksaw always. It is preseason, fantasy football drafts around the corner. Great time of year for sure. Summer is sadly kind of winding down. We're at August 12th, as much as I feels terrible saying that, but we're just a little over a month away until the Young Stars tournament, which I've mentioned all week.
The Young Stars tournament. Well, maybe we'll talk about the Young Stars tournament whenever it happens. The one thing I can say, in the aftermath of last night's game, the Riders and the Bombers are sniping at each other on Twitter right now. And the Riders are trying to be cheeky, and the Bombers are having none of it. Somebody in chat just suggested that Mike O'Shea may possibly be writing the Bombers' tweets today.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up right now. I enjoy the sniping back and forth, but it seems like the Rough Riders are kind of butting into a place where it's none of their business. Like, Rough Riders, you got a game coming up this weekend. Mind your own ball. And so this is what the Rough Riders, just out of nowhere, Bull 41 today, tweeting, "Hey, Bombers, if you need to vent about hitting goalposts, we're here for you." Like, what are you doing, Riders? You got a game. Like, shouldn't you be tweeting out the depth chart or something? And then here come the Bombers. Just worry about your 500 record. Yeah, play your own ball. Like, if the answer is, hey, look at the scoreboard, look at the standings. Like, shut up, Riders. Like, this isn't your business.
Oh, I love this.
Who's
I love
doing that?
The clap back from the Bombers.
Who thought that was a good idea, that they weren't going to get dumped on right away? And here come the replies. Oh, there's BA Split, first reply. And everyone's like, 13 man.
BA, you are the most prolific reply guy on Twitter. Yeah. I have to say. He's always coming back. Sometimes some of the things you reply to, because it'll come up on my feed as well, completely amaze me. I love the fact that you're always willing to engage and dive in.
What are the Riders doing here? Just like in starting this isn't their fight. Like, save it for Labor Day. Like, what the hell?
That being said, they've got a long ways to go to be comparing themselves to the Bombers in any category right now so far this season.
Okay, let me just look at the CFL standings for a sec.
Yeah, bring those up as well.
Let's pull that up. Let's pull that up. Oh, look, the Riders 4-4. Yeah, not gonna get it
losers
done.
Of 3 in a row. Back-to-back losses against the Argos. And they are 5-point favorites in Edmonton this weekend. I still sort of think they'll win, but I'd love to be wrong.
I'm here for trash talk, but like, this isn't their place, the Riders. What are they doing? Look, they got us talking about it.
Well, listen, it was fun because the Bombers, even after the L yesterday, decided that they'd hand out an L to the Riders before they've even played a game so far this week. So
yeah, they play Sunday. Oh no, tomorrow night. That'll be a great one.
Yeah, no doubt.
Saskatchewan in Edmonton, 9 p.m.
Let's get to the Coolbet lines. Speaking of the Riders and the rest of the Canadian Football League, and then it's time to get down with a with some marbles, and we will also be playing my video from the game last night. We talked a little bit about the wave at the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the show, but we do have a little bit more to say on the wave. If you missed that, that's coming up. All right, Coolbet lines for today. 3 games still remaining in the Canadian Football League. Argos 1-point favorites on the road against the Ticats, coming off their 14-point win last week at home against the Tabbies. Wow, I'm surprised that this number has gotten to 3. BC opened as half-point favorites over Calgary, but the Nathan Rourke mania is real. And this number has been climbing throughout the week, and the Lions now 3-point road favorites against the Calgary Stampeders. Can't wait for this one. It'll be very interesting to see how Bo Levi handles things, and whether he has a big FU game for everyone that's written him off and has anointed Nate Rourke the next great one in the Canadian Football League. And yes, the Riders trying to break their losing streak, 6-point favorites Saturday night in the late one against the Edmonton Elks. The Blue Jays back in action tonight against the Cleveland Guardians. Jays -152 favorites. Cleveland +134 on the road. And a good old Yankees-Red Sox matchup tonight as well. -114 for the Yankees. Boston, even money, or +101. Just looking at the odds for the National Bank Open. Couple games today. Tommy Paul, D. Evans, Carreno Busta, and Jay Draper. Ooh, big upset for Draper. And Nick Kyrgios is out as well after his shocking upset of number 1, Daniil Medvedev, earlier in the tournament. Of course, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST when you make your first deposit. We'll give you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit with the promo code WST over with our friends at coolbet.com. All right, Reem, we obviously have the marble race coming up. See a few people that maybe missed it earlier. Are we open yet with marbles?
No. You never told me to open it, so
okay.
I don't know.
I just thought you might have, just because I saw a whole bunch of people putting marbles in.
People are just getting excited, Huss.
They're antsy.
They're antsy for it, and you already typed in like you're not going to get it. You're not going to be in, so you have to wait.
That being said, why don't we do that right now, and then we can play the video, and then we can get ready for it.
We got to show today's big hockey news too, like the biggest hockey story out there for summer.
Exactly. We will get to that, but let's open things up, and we'll let you know when that is. Take a look in the chat, and you will see the Streamlabs bot, not Loveface, our bot, that that will be telling you that it is open. We just had the raffle being canceled. It's not open yet. So Jeff Johnson, XX Rev, Eugene. You're a little bit too early. Okay, now it's open. So the Stiggy, you're going to have to do it again. But Eugene, Colorado Lows, you guys are all in. You know what to do. ! Marbles right now. And you'll be in for it. And we'll do that in just a couple minutes. All right, first off, let's do the big hockey story of the day. We're always here for new looks, new lids, hockey hair, or lack thereof. And Patrik Laine has made a big change to his look coming into his new 4-year deal with the Blue Jackets, Reem.
Here it is. Patrik Laine shaved it all off. He's going bald. Bald is beautiful. We know that. He was rocking the Hulk Hogan look before, and I think it was
the Hulkster.
That's
the best analogy.
We'll pull up his headshots from the last couple of years, but yeah, it was getting kind of Hogan. It was time. Full credit to Laine for embracing it. He's not trying to hide anything, and this is the new Patrik Laine. I wonder if he's gonna have like hats or what, but Brian says he's gonna be way faster this year. I agree. Aerodynamic.
He's gonna have a monster season. I think 4 years, 8.7 a season. Johnny Gaudreau there to set him up. I know many of you Laine fans, like myself, are going to be on some overs, on some props for the upcoming season for the Finnish Flash. All right, ! marbles. We'll give you another second.
You just called Laine the Finnish Flash?
I guess I did.
You can't do that. There's only one.
Yeah, that was
I mean, he's pretty good at line A. He's a really good goal scorer, but
Yeah, we can't give him Solani's nickname. No, that is appropriate. The finisher is the name. I don't know how I screwed that up. I guess Solani's sort of been out of sight, out of mind. Line A is thought of in Solani type reverence here in the city, at least by yours truly, but he's still in, and that is not the case.
we do enjoy this game.
Kick Hustler.
Here.
Boo Hus. Listen, I take the L on that.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Our favorite game, the Hockey DV headshot run.
Okay, here we go. This is, I don't know what year this was, but like remember when he had that beard too?
Yeah, that was the start of the beard year.
Yeah. And I don't know if this was a
fresh
rookie year.
face, young Patrick.
And this was last year. Still had a lot of hair last year.
Yeah.
This was the Hogan.
Yeah, all you needed is a red and yellow Hulkamania shirt, and you'd be set.
And there you go. And here we are now with Line going full ball. So I like it.
Well, nice new look for Patrick Laine. All right, just finishing up. Last call for marbles! ! Marbles if you want to get in. All right, Remo, I promised this earlier. We're debuting this. We'll probably hit social media afterwards, but I wanted to save it for everybody on the show. We talked earlier on the curse that the wave often brings if it is done at an inappropriate time. How many times have we talked about it in relation to hockey? The Jets were the beneficiaries of some early waves last year in both Nashville and Calgary and ended up winning those games. And I don't want to say the wave curse is undefeated, but it's got a pretty damn good winning percentage, and it struck again last night. A wild crowd, an incredible atmosphere. People got a little carried away, maybe a little overconfident after that 100-yard drive for the Blue Bombers. But there it was with the one-score game with tons of time in the fourth quarter, 10 or 11 minutes. The wave went around, and as Dustin Nielson mentioned, it was a full wave. I mean, there was heavy participation through the building, and it kept going and going and going. And to nobody's surprise, I was freaked out. I knew that this was a bad sign, and I can't say I'm surprised that it ended up helping curse the Bombers and kicker Mark Leggio. But I did make a point of pulling my phone out. This is actual reaction live in the building. As many people around yelled at me going, Hustler, what's going on? I pulled out the phone to record it for historical purposes as a lesson to wait until the game is in the books to do the wave. This is from last night.
Covering the spread yet. Too early.
So there you have it. And I stand by all of that. What are we doing too early? And yes, to the point, had not even covered the spread yet, and we all know where it went. So let this be a lesson. Much better to lose a lesson when you're 9-0 than maybe it's a game to get in the playoffs or not. That being said, I think a big part of it was just how damn fun it was at the game last night, and still sort of laughing about the way the game went, but it's easier to laugh when you have a team as good as we do, Remo, and a start that they had with a perfect first 9 games.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, we could say all this stuff about last game, but they're 9-1. They're in a really good spot here, and they are Grey Cup favorites. So, very disappointing finish. You don't want to see that, but they're still a top team in the league.
Oh, I see some people enjoying that spit in the chat. I mean, anyways, we'll probably throw out. That was the debut of it. We wanted to save it for the OGs, the hardcores that are with us every day on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But I have a feeling feel free when we put it out to go with your comments as to whether you agreed that there's a time and a place for the wave, and a one-score game with tons of time left in the fourth quarter, even when you're 9-0 over won 2 back-to-back championships, is not it. All right, all jokes aside, let's get to it, Remo. We've got a marble race to kick us off into the weekend. Of course, you know it well. Here it is. Our version of the Masters green jacket, courtesy of our friends at Canadian Club, official sponsor of the Bombers. You can see that right there. We have all sizes. We are going to be getting more. We don't have double XLs right now. Any other size we have in. If our winner is a double XL, we can either get an IOU and wait till new stuff goes in. I do have a couple other things in the tickle trunk that we might use, but worry about that once you win first. We've got everyone in. Now, Remo, we definitely need to to add Hot Linda into the chat.
That's the horse.
Hot Linda is the horse.
People may not remember our horse
Wednesday
picks from
show?
earlier. Yeah, from Wednesday. It's going to be coming out on a TikTok, so watch out. It'll be good.
Oh, great. Hot Linda's in. Mason Appleton definitely is in. I think we maybe should put the Gus Bus in.
Okay.
And hopefully we can get the Gus Bus on potentially next week on the program. And then let's throw the guests in today. We've got Dusty. We have Westy. We've got Andrew Collier.
Yep.
Rewucki.
Yep.
And Hacksaw.
Yeah, they're all in.
Perfect. All right. Where are we going to go today? I know we did that one we've done the last few times. Let's change it up. I know you mentioned potentially the dojo or another one. Schickster wants to put girls in honor of the chat.
Yeah, I didn't see why.
XYZ nudes in the chat.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't see why, but I know Tommy Lee was trending yesterday. Maybe he wants to go in. No? Sorry, I had to bring it up. They're on tour, Motley Crue.
I'm not touching that one. I'm not touching that one. I've had a few close calls with comments this week. I'm not going to bite.
I'm actually,
on that lure.
I got to say, I was keeping an eye out on the stadium tour with Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Poison. I think it's Joan Jett's in it too. I feel like that's a concert that would sell out IG Field like instantly, and it's going to Edmonton and not here. I feel like that's would be
Abbott
the
was
market.
there. Abbott was there this week. I saw a whole bunch of videos from him. I'll be honest, I didn't really even know that was taking place.
It was postponed for like two years.
Is that like music's version of golf's Champions Tour?
Well, Motley Crue signed a cessation of touring document like in like 2014, and like they were done, and then they ripped that up, and now they're back. So I don't know.
Motley Crue's unretired more than Brett Favre.
They're going up there. I remember going to them in like 2004 when it was a big deal when they reunited. And like, oh, we're never going to see them again, and they came back like 3 more times the next 5 years.
Mike Wynn, yeah. Listen, that's why. Okay. I am not touching this at all. Let's move on to the marbles and not for why Tommy Lee was trending yesterday on Twitter. Thank you very much. Okay. So where are we going to go?
Well, I just going to do the theme song first. Can't forget.
Absolutely.
So
the Tristan Rivers extended version today.
Oh yeah, we'll do I was promising the extended version. We've never done it.
We have an extended version, and I hadn't even heard it till yesterday, and we were going to do it. By the way, thanks again to 8K subs. If you missed yesterday, we did an impromptu marble race because we got to 8K. Appreciate all of you. But if you haven't already subscribed, it's free. It's simple. Just hit that red button on your YouTube channel because you do have to be subscribed to the channel to be a winner in the WST marble race. It is literally the least you can do. Thanks again to everyone subscribing on the podcast. You know where to get there. Just pop in Winnipeg Sports Talk and tell a friend if you can. All right, Tristan Rivers music, our guy, the muse of the Winnipeg digital sports community, with the extended version of the Friday Marbles intro on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
It's Friday. Race.
That was amazing. I don't know how we need to have the extended version every Friday now.
I thought it was too long, but that was pretty awesome. I was digging it.
Terrible executive decision that you made on that. Definitely not too long. And with the video, I mean, once again, Tristan, Candace, you guys are the best. That has certainly made our day. All right, the gang's all here. The weekend is here, but not until we drop the marbles. How many people are in today, Reem, and where are we going?
Okay, we have, I think 100 with all of our bonus marbles. There's 166. I think it was 158 other one.
Beautiful. Justin, I'm with you. Why have we never heard this before? T. Will singing this song in my head all weekend. This is unbelievable. Did Hacksaw's barber get a marble? I don't believe so. That'd be an awesome YouTube name for somebody if you want to change it up. This is gold. Well, Tristan, definitely the MVP of this. All right, so we're pushing 170 marbles in here. Big weekend coming up. I am looking forward to the ball game tonight, but most of all, I'm looking forward to seeing who wins today. The prestigious blue hoodie, WST's version of our Masters green jacket. Remo, fill us in.
I was going to do the Delta. What do you think about the Delta?
Sure, the Delta 9. It's perfect for the weekend.
That's what I was thinking. So sure, we'll do that. We'll do that.
I don't remember the Delta.
Wait,
ever.
what the hell is this? No, this one's stuck.
Is this just the
track? What the hell is this?
It's just the around.
Getting rid of it.
Yeah, that was like the Indy 500.
I'll get a new. Sorry about that.
Perfect. No, that's okay. Better to do it and get the right.
You want the dojo?
One. Well, the dojo we've done before. Is there any other one that kind of?
There's only like 50 of them here. There's 61. I mean, I don't know.
What about something like
is Love is in the Air?
We've done off Haunted Hills. We've done Love is in the Air. We've definitely done.
I think we've done a lot of these. What's Bongo Boogie? That's like a short one. That's pretty short. Marble Mill? Have you done Marble Mill?
I don't think so. That one sounds good.
Okay, we'll do Marble Mill.
Marble Mill. I think this is a new track, everybody. You all know how this works. First place is the champion for the week. Congratulations to everyone, all of our recent winners. Thanks again to Canadian Club. The Marble Mill is about to go down. Good luck to everyone. Thanks again. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. Get them to subscribe on YouTube and podcast. And join us daily live at 1 p.m. on YouTube and afterwards in your podcast feed just after 3 p.m. All right, Remis, I think it's time. The weekend's here. Let's drop the marbles on WST.
This one starts out kind of like they all do in this little, like, what do you call this thing, Huss?
This is I'll be honest, I don't have names for many of these apparatuses. Oh, there's Luke. Luke won the tickets.
I see Hootman
Luke
in
had
there.
a good idea. Hootman is in. This is the big thing. Who is going to come down? Tracy O at the front. Okay, this is a good. We got Daryl Morosky, Tracy Okraniak, Janet Irwin. Oh, Comet thrown over the top rope. Our first elimination in a while. We got Robert Paul in the mix. Robert has just gone in, but this is neck and neck with the boat. Tracy O got a shot forward. Oh, this is wild. Okay, everyone's getting slingshotted. There's going to be a lot of people not making it out to the next one. Who is still alive, though? That is the thing. Is Eugenie going to be? No. M. Sheldon. Anyone making it?
No.
Looks like Turd Ferguson might technically be in first place right now, or running man. Oh, Stormy. MMC Stormy. I don't think Stormy's ever won before.
Oh, but there's
always in with us. Would love to see the regulars. Turd Ferguson and Stormy both looking very good. But again, we haven't even seen the end yet. Oh, here we are. Okay. This is MC Stormy's to lose. Got tied up, and no, Turd Ferguson is going to take it at the end. Oh my God, a huge comeback. Stormy just couldn't get past the last obstacle. That has got to be tough. Lori Loving Life bounced. Trevor Red Ranger. Just watching this back. Oh my God. That last obstacle, Turd Ferguson got a little bit more on the right side, didn't get hung up by it. And that is an absolute heartbreaker for Stormy. Jeez, you gotta feel for MC Stormy. Turd Ferguson, way to go. Turd's another regular. He's been in here in the chat on most days. So well done, Turd. What you need to do, my friend, send us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. As I said, we don't have any double X's right now. Let us know what size you are, and I'll be in touch with you at a time where you can come and pick it up. Pretty and Pionk flamed to finish it off. Turd Ferguson, our winner. We will do a quick rundown of the final results to make sure that, if anyone has any side wagers with any friends about, where they finished or not, we'll run through them. Turd, the winner, couple seconds over Stormy, who got busted right there at the end. Other top 10 finishers: Trevor Red Ranger, Running Man, Kirsten Zinkhu. Oh, the Gus Bus with a strong performance, 6th. Mike Cochran, Pie Boy, Bosby, and Moose 3 are top 10. Westy with a strong performance, top 20 finish. He was in at 16th, right ahead of Chris Vermette. Tracy O's in. You can just keep on rolling down, Remo, as long as people can go back and check on YouTube afterwards. Hacksaw, 25th. Not too bad for old Hacksaw. Dusty, a lot of the marbles we put in did quite well. Dusty was 32nd.
Yeah, Collier, 24.
Oh, and Collier, 24. Man, all the guests today did very, very well. I still want to see where Hot Linda finished up.
Everyone in chat
has Liverpool.
Everyone in chat was writing, "Congratulations, Stormy," before it finished. There was a couple people in chat.
Was Stormy doing the wave?
I think
Stormy may have been doing the wave in front of their computer. I don't want to say for sure, but that was, listen, it was almost an appropriate way to finish off the week after what happened last week. Oh, there's the Bozeman at 73. And I'll be looking to see if Ross is afterwards. I wasn't looking beforehand. Rob Pepper,
Brandon
Rewucki,
Hot Linda 101.
Hot Linda, not too bad. Not too bad, Linda. Paul, Zach, Leanne. It's your boy Bruce. What up, Bruce? KWB. Nice one in there. Mark Sports Video. Tyson Ducharme. Theo Seegers, and let's see everyone that got knocked out today, thrown over the top.
Mason Appleton got bumped.
Appleton, geez.
There's Ross.
Eagle Eyes and Ross. Oh, Ross eliminated. Well, Boozman, you got one. And Tristan Rivers' music deserved a better result after that incredible intro than the DNP. And thank God we finally got the extended version of that after the dictator Remis prevented us from hearing that all these weeks.
I saved it, wanted to save it for a special occasion, and I think I made the right decision, guys.
Okay, does anyone agree with that? Let us know in chat.
Might have had, how long have I had?
How disappointed people will be if we don't play that version next week? It's nice. It's almost like it's a brand new song, though. It's like we've refreshed it up.
See, it is good. Yeah, I agree. Right decision. Should have exactly waited for it.
Kyle in chat, Huss, you going to be getting a barbecue bowl again tonight. Was it good? It was unbelievable. The brisket in that thing, I've had a lot of brisket in places like Kansas City and Texas. I'm a huge barbecue guy. Honestly, that was right up with some of the best that I've ever had. The sausage was really good too. I'm not sure whether I'll be in a barbecue mode. I love the Mr. Pierogi there. I'm a big fan of the Goldie Dog. The tacos at Taco Time, honestly, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, might be the best deal. I think that beef taco was like $3.25 or $3.50. It was pretty good last week. And I also really like the hot dogs. So we'll see. I was at Sal's this morning with Nielson, had a great breakfast to get me set for the rest of the day. But we'll try and do a bit of a number on the concessions tonight. As we mentioned, if you missed it before, big weekend for the Goldeyes. We've got the Manitoba Social Night tonight. If you are going to the game, I believe doors open at 5:30. You can confirm that on the website. But 1,000 Golden Boy bobbleheads going out to the first 1,000 fans. So get there early if you do want to grab one of those. and check out all the fun things they've got going on tonight, concession-wise and prize-wise. Tomorrow, Bark at the Park. And then on Sunday, they're doing that trip to Churchill to see the polar bears. So overall, it should be great. What do you got going on this weekend, Reem?
Oh, Tristan says he's on my side. He's on my side about doing the short version.
Tristan, come on.
He was the one who said only
do
the short version. But then Greg M says we have to play the long version now every time.
I think so too. It was so good.
It is like having a new song though, which is great. I agree.
It's like we have like a brand new intro. That's just the best. Anyways, Tristan, you were the best. Thanks so much for your support.
I don't think I have any plans. I might go to the beach. Maybe go to the Goldeyes. I'm going to be watching this BC Calgary game tomorrow. That's for sure.
Well, let's kick a WST Winnipeg WWT Winnipeg Weather Talk update for the weekend in case you haven't looked. We got a mix in sun and cloud today with a high of 26 degrees, low of 13 tonight. Not too bad. A little bit of cloud coming in. It'll clear before morning. A little bit of fog in the AM as well. But tomorrow it should be really nice. Sunny, mix of sun and cloud in the morning. Fog patches dissipating a little later on. High at 27, Humidex 31. Should be a hell of a Saturday. Looks like Sunday going to be a little bit worse, cloudy with the 40% of showers. Hopefully that won't affect the Goldeyes game, but we'll worry about getting some wins for the Fish, who are on a roll as of late, looking great for the playoffs. And as I said, I've been there. These are sort of the best times of the year to go out to the ballpark. And, with the Bombers have already played their game on Thursday, great chance to get out there if you haven't already. I will certainly be there, and maybe we'll see you there. And obviously, Monday, Remo will get back at it with another big week. Hopefully a little bit to talk about on the Jets front, because it will be a little quiet with the Bombers on the bye next week.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week, too, with Bombers on a bye. We'll have to manufacture some controversy, I think, to get people to tune in here for a week in the summer with minimal Jets news.
Honestly,
and,
considering the engagement of the tweets, I think we just do some maybe some food reviews, food takes, and some fantasy stuff. We will get into some NFL talk because we've sort of put this off with all the excitement about the Bombers, but with the Bombers being off, be a great time to maybe hit a few training camps, get the latest on a few teams specifically, maybe focus in on the Vikes and some of your favorites. And we'll talk a little fantasy too, because I know many of your drafts are coming up. I got to get ready to do that, and we're launching a bunch of new things lock shop wise as it pertains to fantasy football as well, so stay tuned for that. All that being said, folks, thanks again for the support. Thank you for helping us get to 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. That was a big milestone. On to 8,500 and then to 9K and eventually 10K hopefully soon. But we appreciate your support. Wouldn't be able to do it without you, as well as all of our great sponsors. But if it does come up and you have the chance to let people know about what we're doing here, it all helps as we continue to grow heading into hockey season. But for right now, have a great weekend. Maybe we'll see you at the ballpark. Get outside, enjoy. But just make sure you have a safe one and come back and join us 1 p.m. live on YouTube, just after 3 p.m. in your podcast feed Monday afternoon, coming up when we get back at it on Monday on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great weekend.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.